At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah.
97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Welcome into a happy hour Friday edition of the Sports Bash along with Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill, live in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. Yes, it is Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Phillies have won 3 straight games. Eagles' first preseason game is tonight. Hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. We got a lot to get to on the show. Nick, welcome back into the studio. How you doing today?
What's going on, Josh? Nice to see you once again. I don't have to be on the phone like yesterday. I can tell you today how much you're wrong.
Yeah,
that was my goal today, to come in for 4 hours and tell you you're wrong.
Folks, this jerk, he's watching the Olympic game yesterday and giving me updates, and his updates are like a minute ahead of the television behind me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You know, my feed was on the right path. It was on the right timing, and you're welcome for the early feed to get out to our listeners right away.
I'm not thanking you for anything.
You should thank me, Josh. You should be thanking me for that.
Not thanking you for anything. But we got a great show lined up today, and I will thank you for that because Nick has been integral in getting the show set up today, helping me out as Mike is with his youth baseball team in Virginia for the 13-year-old World Series, Little League World Series, or whatever you want to call it. I can't keep track of all these names.
I thought it was Babe Ruth. Is it the Babe Ruth?
Whatever. I don't know. I don't obsess over little children like you do, Nick.
Oh, no. See, this is your problem. We were arguing about the Little League World Series earlier, what we wanted on the television, and you went to the Olympics. I would prefer, honestly, I'd rather watch the Little League World Series than the Olympics just in general. I'm just saying.
I mean, the Olympics are only on every 4 years, dude.
I understand, but the Little League World Series is entertaining. That baseball's great.
You can watch 11-year-olds anytime you want, okay?
Okay. Fine. I want to go to Williamsport. That's a goal of mine, Josh. It's a goal.
Well, you and Mike Gill can do that together and enjoy yourself.
We will.
Okay?
We will. You're going to come with us. We're going to
I am not coming with you.
Why not?
There's a lot of other things on my sports bucket list. That's not one of them.
It's because I'm a baseball fiend. That's why, Josh.
I mean, I want to go to SEC football games. I want to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I want to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame. I want to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I want to go to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena.
You got a lot on your list. That's fair. I have a bunch of those on my list, too. I've checked off the Baseball Hall of Fame, but Little League World Series is an awesome, awesome event. It's
overrated.
And when you have a local team in the Little League World Series, it's even better, Josh.
Local? Really?
New Jersey and New York are playing, I believe, today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, what, New Jersey, like Jersey City, New Jersey?
It doesn't matter. It's New Jersey. It's New Jersey. That's all that matters.
It matters.
It doesn't to me.
It matters.
If it says New Jersey, I'm tuned in.
Let's get it back to the Phillies sports. The reason why people are tuning into this show, Nick Earnshaw, isn't for you and me to babble. It's for us to talk about the Eagles preseason game tonight. We'll get into more of the details of that. Adam Kapp will join us for football at 4 hours. We will break down the players and positions we're keeping a closer eye on as the Eagles take on the Ravens. It looks like the game will be played tonight. Nick Earnshaw, looks like the weather will clear up just in time for the players to take the field and hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. tonight. Also, as I mentioned, Phillies have won 3 straight. Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad, he will join us at 5 o'clock because remember the Phillies are playing at 9:40 tonight, Nick Earnshaw. How late did you stay up last night for the game?
I got about to the 5th or so, 6th inning again. I have like the same schedule, it seems like, when I fall asleep. So I got to like the 5th and 6th, caught the highlights in the morning, and yeah, hey, they're winning again. It feels like the Phillies again, but thank goodness this is the last late game for a while, Josh, so I don't have to like fall asleep early anymore. I can watch the game in its entirety. Because you know me, I'm an early riser, but I go to bed early. That's my problem. So enough of these late games. 9:40 start tonight. It's the last one for a while. I'm all for that. Just so you know.
See, this is very conducive for my schedule because I'm already up late because I got to put the update in from you.
Yep.
I got to do station work. I couldn't get done during the day. So I've always been a late person anyway. Logistics, demanding of me.
You're a night owl. I'm an early riser.
Oh, I'm definitely a night owl. I'll hang with the best of them till late in the morning.
That's great.
Or early morning. Is it late night or early morning? Which is it?
Is it late night or early morning? I think it's early morning. Because for me, it's early morning. For me, I'm an early riser. It's early morning. If I'm up at 5 o'clock, it's early in the morning. It's not late at night. But they're two different things. Like 5 o'clock can mean something totally different to somebody else. Like 5 o'clock can be a late night. 5 in the morning to me is an early morning.
Yeah. All right. Text board is open 609-403-0973. It is Happy Hour Friday. Oh man. Happy Hour Friday. What are you guys drinking this weekend? We have a couple more weeks of summer left. Nick Earnshaw. Yeah. So what are the people doing for Happy Hour Friday? What are people doing for the weekend? Let us know. 609-403-0973. We also will touch on a little bit later about Team USA and Joel Embiid. Best performance of the Olympics, Nick Earnshaw, yesterday for the one Joel Embiid. Also, we promised you for Happy Hour Friday, we are going to give you, so we were talking yesterday about Nick Foles, his retirement, all the details on 973ESPN.com. Nick Earnshaw, you and I talked yesterday about Nick Foles.
Yeah.
He was born to play in Philadelphia. Literally, the man had his greatest success in the city of Philadelphia, right? So we have come up with our top 10 players who were born to play in Philadelphia. Now, we started getting recommendations yesterday, Nick Earnshaw. People didn't want to wait till today, so we'll review some of those recommendations. And, of course, Nick and I will continue to argue if Nick Foles' jersey should be retired or not.
It should be.
It should not be.
It should.
We will discuss that a little bit later, but I want to start with the Phillies because they have won 3 straight games. And you know why they won 3 straight games, Nick Earnshaw?
Why is that?
Because their offense has finally come back to life.
That's true. That's very true.
I don't think that we appreciate enough the original intent of this offense. Dave Dombrowski said this years ago when they first put this team together. He said, we are going to out-hit our problems. Remember him saying that?
Yes, I do.
Remember him saying, we are building this team with the kind of offense that we will basically live or die with, to paraphrase what he said. Well, we are seeing that in full action right now, Nick Earnshaw, because Kyle Schwarber has 19 RBI in the last 19 games since the All-Star break. The offense yesterday with JT Realmuto finally coming to life offensively. This team lives or dies with this offense. And by the way, can we talk about the fact that you rubbed it in the Diamondbacks' face yesterday? They were trying to rub it in the Phillies' face, Nick, but the Phillies said, nope, we ain't having any of that.
Yeah, celebrating your NLCS win last year. What a disgrace. And you go out and win. It doesn't matter anymore. That's in the past. They lost the World Series anyway, so who cares? They didn't get farther and didn't win anything after they beat the Phillies in the NLCS for the pennant last year. It's fine. It's fine because they come out. JT Realmuto has a big game, and I want to talk about JT Realmuto a little later. I mean, he gets a big home run after a 7-pitch at bat, fighting, battling at the dish. But you're seeing this team come back to life a little bit, right? We've talked about the ebbs and flows of the season in baseball. Listen, the Phillies aren't the only team that has struggled within the past couple of months during the dog days of summer, right? Like the Yankees, the Orioles, Guardians, Dodgers, they're all 500 or worse in like their last 40 games, okay? So the Phillies aren't the only team who have struggled as of late. they're now starting to get back to who they actually are. They're hitting the baseball. When all those guys, Turner, Schwarber, Harper, at the top of the lineup, Real Muto, are struggling offensively, you're not going to win ball games. This is how this team is built. They are built around their superstars. They are built around guys driving in runs as well as hitting home runs. And you saw Schwarber hit 3 home runs the other night. And last night, the long ball, JT Realmuto hits a big one. So you're seeing the offense start to come alive. You're seeing better at bats. You're seeing Johan Rojas take a walk. You're seeing Schwarber be extremely disciplined like he has been throughout the entirety of the season. So you're seeing these guys step up. And, sometimes that happens. You go through ruts during a long 162-game season. That's what happened, and now you're seeing the offense come alive again. Hopefully it's in the past. You don't want to see this come back and haunt them in the playoffs again offensively. So the offense is starting to come around again. I think they're starting to get out of this rut and come out on the bright side of it.
609-403-0973 is the text for also your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. With all that being said, Nick, I think that as long as they win one more game, it's enough.
You're at 500 if you win one more game.
Because we know this is not a great team on the road, right? We know they're not a great road team. But if you can salvage the road trip, right? You already got 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. That was huge. Now if you win one more game in this series, you have the chance to at least go home with your head held high, because I'm not guaranteeing they are going to win 2 more games, because they do still have to play Zach Gallen tomorrow, and he's a Jekyll and Hyde pitcher right now. And we don't even know who the Diamondbacks are pitching on Sunday. I just looked it up, Nick. They still haven't announced a starter for the Diamondbacks on Sunday.
Yeah, we have no idea who's going to be pitching for them.
But I know who's pitching tonight for the Phillies, and that's Zach Wheeler.
Yes, it is.
And that's why I'm saying win tonight. Lock yourself into a bare minimum split. And now you get to go home and say, look, it doesn't matter that we lost Saturday or Sunday. What matters is we won 4 straight games on the road on a road trip that was supposed to be a losing proposition for us.
Yeah, I mean, 10 games on the roads on the West Coast. You had the Mariners, who are a playoff team, the Dodgers, you win 2 out of 3 against them, the Diamondbacks, who are fighting for a wild card spot. Like, these teams are really good, and this was like, everyone was freaking out as you were going into this West Coast road trip. It's like, oh man, you're playing all these really good teams. They start off slow against the Mariners, and then they come back against the Dodgers in that LA series, and now you start off against Arizona with a W. So it was a good thing maybe to get away from Citizens Bank Park a little bit. You go out west, you're with your team, you're with your guys for the entirety of that trip, and you're able to get out of this rut. If they're able to get out of this rut during this West Coast road trip, it's a huge momentum shift, right? Like, they needed a momentum shift. If they can do that, get to 500. You win one more game, you're guaranteed 500 on this road trip. That's pretty solid to get you back here to Citizens Bank Park to play some bad division teams. So if you can win tonight, you win the Wheels game. Allard started last night, and he was pretty good. I mean, he did his job, Josh. So you're getting performances like that out of Phillips as well as Allard. You need those at times, especially going through a long season with the injuries they've had. Ranger might be held out a little bit longer. So I think they're in a spot right now where you can come out of this maybe over 500 if you continue to hit the baseball like they have been.
The other thing with the Phillies is what's interesting. You mentioned the pitching staff. That's a great point by you, because we don't know what Ranger Suarez's future is right now. But frankly, Nick, I would almost say don't even bring him back yet. Just, even if he's ready, give him time. Yeah. This guy has never pitched this many innings in his career, right? So you're talking about a pitcher, Ranger Suarez, who has never pitched 180 innings in a season. So why are we sitting here trying to rush him back as soon as possible? Look, if this team is supposed to out-hit their problems, right? Let him sit. Let him rest. Listen, it's hilarious saying this. Just get Taijuan Walker and Spencer Turnbull back and let them pitch.
Yeah.
For the rest of the month.
Eat the innings. Just let them eat innings. Even let Allard eat innings. Let Tyler Phillips eat innings. Let all these guys eat their innings.
Can you believe Kobe Allard has turned into something that we can actually be happy with.
Yeah. Last night, I mean, he was fine last night. He kept him in the game,
he did
right?
The job. He
did his job. That's all you needed out of him. 5 innings, 1 earned run, 6 hits, 3
I'm
Ks.
surprised you didn't walk in here today, strutting your stuff with your chest out with Estevez getting a save last night.
He did get a save. He did give up a run. But,
that's why your chest wasn't out.
But it was an unearned run. So, but hey, he got the save. That's fine.
I'm just saying I was expecting a little, swagger coming in here, from you.
I don't need swagger when I already know what's going to happen with Estevez. I'm so confident in him.
You're that confident.
I'm like, all right, yeah, he got another save. Good. Now, I wouldn't even mention his name if he blew the save last night. That would be a problem because then everybody would looking at me like, you wanted to trade for this guy. You called him out weeks ago. But listen, he got the job done. Listen, the bullpen's very important. Kerkering, he's been struggling lately. And, it seems like when he's not mixing in his fastball, he's not as good as he usually can be. Like, he needs to use that sweeper as his out pitch, right? Like, he can't lean on it too much because then he becomes predictable. He gave up some runs yesterday. So, I mean, there's still a little bit of concern with some of the bullpen guys. You want Alvarado to try and get back to where he was. Kerkering's been struggling a little bit. You need him to use that fastball a little bit more, in my opinion. But yeah, you're getting these starts out of these younger guys, and Allard and Phillips, and who no one knows who they are, where they came from. They come from AAA, and you need guys the innings at this point in the season, right? So you can get your starters fresh for the postseason. Keep Ranger out. I'm with you on that. Keep Ranger out for as long as you possibly need till he's 100% ready to go for the postseason.
He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on a Happy Hour Friday edition of 97.3 ESPN. Before we get to the text board, one more point I want to hit on with you about the Phillies is that I don't think that this team going through that, I've had arguments about this, Nick, and that is, I don't think them going through the losing streak was a bad thing necessarily, because sometimes you need to be humbled. Sometimes you need to be reminded that, that your bleep don't stink. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes you got to be reminded that you are beatable. You are going to lose. And baseball is the ultimate losing sport.
Yes.
I mean, you have people who fail 70% of the time who go to the Hall of Fame. That's what a 300 hitter is. A 300 hitter is someone who fails 70% of the time. So we got to remember that losing is a part of baseball. Losing is part of the grand scheme of things. And like I said, get a win today against Arizona. You split the road trip. Then you can go home and deal with the lowly Marlins and the lowly Nationals. Pile on some wins for your next road trip, Nick.
Yeah, because they have a lot of road games coming up to end the season, right here in August and September. You want to get those W's against those Marlins, against the Nationals. Hey, by the way, Christian Pache, you'll face a former Philly when you do play the Marlins, which is hysterical. But yeah,
I hope someone hits him in the head.
Oh, gee, no, don't go there, Josh. Jeez, I liked Christian Pache. Remember, I told you.
Christian
what
Pache?
did I? No, wait. What did I tell you?
What's wrong with you?
What did I tell you? I said he was going to be a trade kicker. He was going to be a kicker in a trade, and that's why they were playing him.
Doesn't mean you like the guy.
He was fine.
You're
it is what he is. Yeah, I don't want him to get hit in the head. Jeez, that's crazy. All right. Anyway, but back to the point with the Phillies. Like, if they win just one more game out of these next 3 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, they at the very least are at 500 on this road trip. They have a real chance to go over 500 on this road trip, and that's a win for the Phillies. Remember, the Phillies have still the best record in baseball. They have the most wins in baseball, 69 wins. And like to your point, baseball's a losing sport. They've lost 46 times this year, and over the past couple of weeks, it's felt like they're the worst team in baseball. We're freaking out and all this. They still have the best record in the league. Like I mentioned, the Orioles, the Guardians, the Yankees, they've all struggled. The Dodgers over the past couple of months too. The Braves haven't caught any ground essentially on you. They're still 8 games out. The Mets are jumping them. Or no, the Braves are 8.5 and the Mets are 8 games out. Like that, the Braves have not been that great either. So with where the Phillies are at, they're okay. We can take a breath. They still lead by a lot in the division, and they have some easier competition coming up against the Marlins, against the Nationals, at home, by the way, and you'll be getting guys like Taijuan Walker back, Turnbull, Rangers taking his time, but you'll get him back as well. So the injuries aren't going to be as piled on heading into the rest of the season, knock on wood, as they have been.
Over on the text board at 609-403-0973. Also your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We already got people chiming in, but not about the Phillies, Nick Earnshaw. They're chiming in about Happy Hour Friday.
Happy Hour!
Jake in Egg Harbor City says, Happy Hour Friday. I'm going to get some right after work. And he sends a picture of the Kelsey's Garage beer.
Ooh. That sounds really good.
Now, have you had the Garage beer?
I've never had it. I've seen it, though. I've never gotten a chance to have it, Josh. Maybe I got to join you and Jeff or somebody to try and have this beer at some point.
See, I haven't had it either yet, and I do want to have it because, one, the explanation for why the Kelseys like this beer is a little suspicious to me.
Why is that?
So if you've listened to their podcast, Jason and Travis, they talk about how they're not big fans of craft beer. But they're also not big fans of just the normal light beer all the time.
Okay.
So they claim this is kind of like an in-between of the two. I want to taste it and see for myself because I am someone who does like the craft beer. You know, I like to go to the local craft breweries. I plan to go to some more this weekend, right? And so for me, I also do like a Corona Light. Someone hands me a Bud Light or something, I'll drink it. You know, I'm not against having a brew with somebody. So I'm not as particular as the Kelseys are or as Mike Gill, who is hazy IPA all the way and almost nothing else. So I'm willing to drink anything, Nick. And I'll make my own judgments to see if something's worth my time or not. That's why I want to have it.
Yeah, so you're not that picky when it comes to beer. You'll go with the flow, essentially.
I mean, there are some things I don't like. You know, nobody in their right mind likes Natty Ice or Rolling Rock. I'm not a fan of Coors Light. I don't like that at all. You know, there is a lot of brews out there that I don't like. You know, okay. I'm not exactly acting like I love a Heineken over here. I'm not that guy.
But, you know, you're not that picky. Like, I'll drink some of the ones you named. Like, I'll always try. Like, I'm someone who wants to try something. Like, if someone hands me a new IPA I've never seen before or a beer I've never had, I'll try it. I'm down. If I don't like it, I don't like it. It is what it is. But I will always try it. That's my thing. I'm always down to try. It doesn't matter what kind it is. If it's a darker beer, it's a lighter, it's pale ale, whatever. I'm down to try it and, you know, give it a shot. I'm always down for giving it a shot.
See, I knew there was a reason why you and I can hang out more because you're willing to at least try.
You know, I like to go with the flow. That's me. Like, I like going with the flow.
What are you, Bruce Lee or something?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why be not? Like water, my friend?
Yeah. Jesus.
Texter wanted to know, have any of you guys tried the THC seltzer drinks?
No. Are you a seltzer guy? I'm
not really a seltzer guy.
So you don't like seltzer?
I'm not a seltzer guy.
See, I like seltzers. I'll do seltzer.
See, I've heard of these THC seltzer drinks. Someone was telling me about it like a month ago, I think it was, a month or two ago. A buddy of mine was. And I was like, yeah, that sounds a little bit too complicated for me.
That's too much.
I don't like, it's almost like mixing business with pleasure. You know what I mean? It's like I'm mixing my alcohol with my THC. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, I say, I want to try everything. That one I might not. That's not my realm. That's not my realm. Normal beer, you know, IPAs, yeah, I'll try anything. That one's a little outside my realm.
It's a little bit too much mixing and matching.
Yeah. Not good.
Jeff from Ocean City says it's a hurricane happy hour Friday.
Yeah.
And he sends us a lineup. Okay? Okay, so he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got 6 brews in front of me here. Now, I've had the Cigar City Florida Man. That is a solid one. I've also had, it's the Pineland Swamp Donkey.
How's that one? That's a great name. Swamp Donkey? That's fantastic.
It's a good brew. It's a real good brew. I actually like the Swamp Donkey more than the Florida Man.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
The Swamp Donkey sounds fantastic.
The other brews I have not had because one of these is Freak Nature, and I can't see exactly what is that? Wicked Weed Brewing. Never had a Wicked Weed Brewing. Now I've had Double Nickel Brewing. That's more up where your end of the alley is, Nick. They're up in Pensauken.
Okay, that's my neck of the woods.
Yeah, but I've never had Super Mini Dank 420. Never had that one.
I wonder if that's like the THC beer the other Texas.
No.
No?
I think it's a little different.
Okay. I was just saying.
Jeff from Ocean City is not a THC guy as far as I know. Yeah. And then another one on here is from 21st Amendment Brewery. Hell or High Water Watermelon. It's a wheat beer brewed with watermelon. Now that sounds interesting because I feel like watermelon is one of those hit or miss things. Like you either like it or you don't like it.
Yeah. It's like that's your taste. You're either a fan of that type of flavor in a type of drink, an alcoholic beverage, whatever. That's someone, if you're into watermelon, yes, you're going to like that one. I do. I think that's something I would probably enjoy.
Interesting.
I'm getting excited for after the show now. What time is it? Like, I'm ready to go now for Happy Hour Friday.
Well, there's one more here. So it's called Pacific Blonde. It's from Golden Road Brewing. That's the other one that Jeff from Ocean City sends in. Now, a blonde ale is always a good option. But not all blonde ales are made the same, Nick Earnshaw.
Wow. Something new every day.
They're not all the same quality. So I don't know, is this Golden Road Brewing going to be on the same caliber that I personally like or not?
But it's a heck of a lineup. It's a heck of a lineup.
So, but I've had two of these brews. Definitely Nick Earnshaw is in for the watermelon wheat beer.
Yes. And the Swamp Donkey.
I've had the Swamp Donkey. It is good.
Okay.
So,
good to know.
It's an IPA. Okay, so you got to prepare yourself for that. It's a little bit higher alcohol content for your skinny body over there, Nick Earnshaw.
Yeah, listen, and I've been working out lately, so I'm losing a couple more pounds too.
Josh Hennigan, Nick Earnshaw filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up on the other side, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. He joins us to talk about the Phillies and more here on 97.3 ESPN on a Happy Hour Friday edition of the Sports.
It's the Sports.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Mike Gill.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Josh Hennigan alongside Nick Earnshaw on a Happy Hour Friday edition of the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And of course the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Joining us right now is Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Of course, he joins the Sports Bash every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the show. And, Mike, good to have you on, not just because it's a Happy Hour Friday, not just because we talk to you each and every week, but, Mike, we actually get a chance to talk about the Phillies actually winning games in a row for the first time in a while. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How you guys doing? And I thought last night's Phillies win was one of the biggest of the season. It really kind of turned this whole 10-game trip that they're on. Now they're 4-3 on this trip. I think we all would have signed for 5-5 before they left town. They're a win away from that and 2 wins away from having a really good West Coast trip.
When you think about this offense, Kyle Schwarber was carrying them for a while, and it seems like the other guys are kind of like finally rounding in the form. Mike, historically, the Phillies have been a good team in August the last 2 seasons. Is this just who this team is? Are they just a team that goes with an ebb and flow of a season?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how streaky they've been before, and they continue to be streaky. And last night, I mean, Schwarber's off to a tremendous start this month, but last night he, Turner, and Harper, I think went 6 for 13. And if those 3 guys, the first 3 guys in your batting order, are going to go 6 for 13, you're going to win a lot of baseball games.
Hey, Mike, it's Nick. I wanted to ask you about JT Realmuto, coming off the injury, coming back into this lineup, hits a big home run last night. Thompson, after the game, was talking about his importance to this lineup and how he's been one of the best catchers he's ever seen. How important is it for JT Realmuto to continue to do what he's doing at the dish as well as get days off because he isn't getting any younger?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at JT Realmuto, I think the injury that he had early in the season, the knee injury, is going to benefit him in the long run. He started to hit last night. What do you have, a home run last night? He's hitting the ball with more power the past couple of days. He didn't really do that when he came back from the knee injury. I think in past seasons he's had a tendency to get worn down as the season goes on because he catches so much. I think coming back, missing that time might make him fresher for October. And he's a guy I'm interested to see what a fresh JT Realmuto is like in October.
Mike, you mentioned Realmuto. There's been speculation, what are they going to do with this team heading into the playoffs? We know when they expand the rosters next month. I mean, is that a scenario where we get Rafael Marchand back up here?
Yeah, I would suspect that Marchand would probably return, when they expand the rosters and when the AAA season ends. Right now, I know Rafael Marchand is not in Philadelphia or in Arizona with the Phillies, but he is, for all intents and purposes, the Phillies' backup catcher. If something were to happen long-term to JT Realmuto, Marchand would be back here, and Marchand would get the majority of the starts over Stubbs right now. It's just they want to keep Marchand in AAA. He hasn't played a lot of baseball the past couple of years. He needs that bat. He needs experience. He is the backup catcher. He's just not in the same dugout as Realmuto is right now. If Realmuto were to get hurt where he would miss time again, Marchand would be up here and he would get the majority of the starts. Would you consider Marchand for the postseason roster? Possibly. I'd have to take a look at it. I think if you're worried about who the backup catcher is for the postseason roster, then a lot of stuff has gone right for you at that point. So, that's something I would take a look at closer to October, basically.
Mike, I want to touch on Ranger Suarez and his possible return. I know Rob Thompson has said they want to be cautious with him, give him as much rest as possible. What do you expect the timeline for Ranger Suarez to be going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound now like he's going to return on this homestand that they've got coming up. I think they've got a week's worth of home games when they come back, so it doesn't sound like he's going to return there. Look, I'm fine with them giving Ranger Suarez as much time as he needs to come back. I think this is a mini vacation for him that's going to be benefit in the long term, much like Realmuto missing time in May and June might benefit him in October. I think Ranger Suarez's problems, I know they talked about the back, but I just think his problems were a tired arm caused by pitching too many innings compared to what he's pitched in the past. I think you get a refreshed Ranger Suarez back, a Ranger Suarez who is throwing like he was in April and May, and not the Ranger Suarez we saw in June and July. I really think the key to the Phillies postseason is going to be Ranger Suarez. What does Ranger Suarez look like when he comes back? Because with Ranger Suarez pitching the way he did in April and May, you've got Wheeler, Nola, and Suarez. That's a pretty good rotation. With Ranger Suarez pitching how he did in June and July, now you've got Wheeler and Nola, and you're sort of grasping. You're trying to find somebody for that number 3 spot there. So, I think Ranger Suarez could be the key to how far the Phillies go in the playoffs.
Talking to Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, joining us here on a happy hour Friday edition of the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig, Nick Earnshaw, filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Mike, with that being said about Ranger Suarez, after Ranger, who is the other guy that you're keeping an eye on? Because we know what Wheeler is. We don't have to figure him out. But who is the other guy that's going to be important down the stretch? Because Nola is Nola, right? He is going to be who he is. But are you looking at Sanchez? Are you looking at what happens when Walker comes back? Because someone's got to eat these innings until Ranger Suarez gets back.
Yeah, I mean, Sanchez is a guy that's obviously he's going to get that fourth start in the playoffs when you need that fourth starter. He might be a guy you put in out of the bullpen if you need 3 or 4 innings in a playoff game. So Sanchez is going to be that fourth starter. I think you're exactly right. They need somebody to eat innings over the next 2 months. It'll be interesting to see what Taijuan Walker looks like. Tyler Phillips bounced back and kept the Phillies in the game against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think the guy who's pitched last night, Colby Allred, that's his second straight, really good outing. They've got some good work from him. So I think you really got to give Dombrowski some credit for guys like Allred and Phillips, guys they've kind of picked off the scrap heap here and kind of turned into contributing players on a team that's headed for a division title.
Mike, I want to talk about Orion Kerkering a little bit. He struggled last night. It seems like when he does struggle, it's when he's leaning on that sweeper too much. Do you agree with that sentiment that he has to mix in that fastball a little bit more so he does become a little more predictable?
Yeah, and I think his inability to command that fastball is the reason why he's kind of leaned on that sweeper a lot, right? And you know, the one concern that I would have about the Phillies right now, and let's face it, I think this recent stretch has confirmed that, hey, they're the best team in the National League. When the playoffs start, they're still going to be the favorite to win the National League World Series. I mean, they just took 3 straight from Arizona and the Dodgers, who are probably, you know, if you had to name the top teams in the NL right now, you'd go Phillies, Dodgers, Arizona, some combination of that. The Phillies have won 3 in a row from them. So I think the Phillies have kind of reasserted themselves here on this road trip as the National League favorite. But I'm worried about the bullpen. I mean, Kerkering has not been effective. Alvarado's control, command has not been there. Hoffman has given up some big hits recently. And, you know, Estevez last night showed a couple of cracks there. So if I had to have a concern with the Phillies right now, I think the bullpen, you know, I'm a little worried about it, to be honest.
You mentioned the bullpen. You know, what can happen between now and the end of the season to change that, though? Because it's not like you could trade for somebody else, right? It's not like you can sit there and be like, hey, let's go out and get another pitcher. Like, you're pretty much stuck with who you got. It's not like you can go to the minor leagues. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, what you need is those guys to return to how they were pitching in April and May, all right? I mean, we knew there was going to be some sort of market correction. Matt Strahm was not going to go the whole season without giving up a run. Jeff Hoffman was going to have a bad outing or two, but we just need them now to correct back the opposite way. And the great thing about the bullpen is that, you know, it's almost like spinning a roulette wheel out there. You're never more than, you know, a spin away or an outing away from starting a hot streak, right? So, you know, I think there's talent out in that bullpen. I think there's depth out there in that bullpen. I'm just a little worried about how they pitched right now, but they can have plenty of time to turn it around and get back to where they were in, you know, May and June, and then I think they're more than fine.
Mike, let's switch the tables really quick because Joel Embiid actually looked good yesterday for Team USA. Do you read anything into this Joel Embiid now suddenly performing well in the Olympics, or do you think this is just part of Joel Embiid, who he is, where he goes through these up and down roller coasters?
Well, I think, first of all, a couple things about the Embiid game yesterday, and I watched the whole game. I thought Embiid was tremendous on offensively, and I thought he played well, and he's getting a lot of credit, well-deserved. But, you know, not to look at the glass half full, a lot of the faults that have cost the Sixers in playoff games in the past were evident in that game. He's very shaky with the basketball in certain situations. He commits key turnovers, and his inability to grab a defensive rebound at 7-2 in the fourth quarter of that game yesterday, you know, almost cost the United States. Now, the flip side is offensively, he got several big go-to baskets, and he did play some nice defense against Jokic in that fourth quarter. But I thought he showed some limitations, too. Look, here's Embiid. To me, Embiid showed up out of shape for the Olympics. Now, 2 to 3 weeks later, he's in shape, so you're kind of getting the best of Joel Embiid. My question is, what is Embiid going to look like in the middle of September when he shows up for Sixers training camp? Is he going to build on this experience that he's had over there in the Olympics? Is he going to go to another level in his physical condition, or is he going to use this month between the Olympics and the start of NBA training camp or the start of the season to get out of shape again?
Really quick, Mike, because you mentioned how he showed up out of shape. I mean, is it fair to say maybe he shouldn't have gone to the Olympics at all? I mean, if you're not showing up and be able to give your best to the team, why are you even there?
Well, I think now that he's played his way into shape, you know, he obviously played a big role in yesterday's game, and I would venture to say he will have a huge role in the gold medal game against France. I mean, he's a huge matchup problem for the French. Let's not forget he scored 70 points against Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs in the game earlier this season. So I would think he would be a guy that the United States would try to use against the big guys, Rudy Gobert and Wembanyama, that France is going to put on the court in the gold medal game. And my hope is that Embiid would get something out of seeing these, you know, playing with other great players, maybe seeing their work ethic and seeing how they approach the game. There's that great story from that documentary about the Redeem team where one of the first nights they're at the Olympics, and the players are coming in after a night out at 4 a.m. and they run into Kobe Bryant in the lobby, and Kobe Bryant's headed in the opposite direction to go work out. And by the end of the Olympics, there were more players, joining Kobe Bryant for those early morning workouts and really understanding what it takes to be a great player and maximize your potential. You hope that that's what Joel Embiid would get out of this Olympics, seeing what LeBron does, seeing what Curry does, seeing what Kevin Durant does, the work they put in to get to the top of their craft. You would hope that would rub off on Joel Embiid.
Mike, you talk about some of the limitations towards the end of the game with Joel Embiid. There were some positive things, obviously, on the offensive side. But looking at it from a Sixers perspective, when you have Tyrese Maxey now, who's continued to evolve and grow, you bring in a Paul George. Do you think it's now that, with the way the Sixers are built, that you can kind of lean on those guys more so in the latter part of the game, in the crunch time of a game, in the playoffs, more so than Embiid has to do as much during the end of games?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's been the issue for the 76ers, and are not really fair to Embiid is because of the nature of his position. It is hard for him to create offense by himself in the fourth quarter of close playoff games. They have needed somebody who can create shots for themselves and their teammates off the dribble in the fourth quarter of playoff games. Ben Simmons certainly wasn't able to do it. Markelle Fultz couldn't do it. James Harden could do it some of the time. Now, Tyrese Maxey did it in a game or two last year in the playoffs. Other times he didn't. Paul George is another guy that can do it for you. You almost need that perimeter guy to create shots off the dribble for himself and teammates. And that having that guy, whether it's Maxey continuing to develop or it's Paul George coming in with a healthy Joel Embiid, makes the Sixers a formidable NBA contender.
Mike Begay for the Press of Atlantic City. Check out all of his coverage of the Phillies and the Sixers and South Jersey High School sports over at PressOfAtlanticCity.com, at AC Press McGarry on the Twitter X platform. Mike, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday.
All right, we'll see you guys down the road. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Nick Earnshaw, Josh Hennick, filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash Happy Hour Friday edition. 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. More coming up on the show. Don't forget Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad. He will join us at 5 o'clock tonight. He will join the Sports Bash. Don't forget Football at 4. Adam Kaplan previews the Eagles-Ravens preseason game 1, which is tonight. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN, your home in South Jersey for Eagles football.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Nick Earnshaw joining me, Josh Hennick, here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN. Now, coming up, Nick, you and I are going to discuss the top 10 athletes who were born to play in Philadelphia, because with Nick Foles retiring, he's on that list, right?
Oh, he's got 100% be on that list. Now, I don't know if he's top 5, maybe he's top 5, but he's got to be on that list somewhere, somehow.
It's going to be interesting. I want to hear your list, and I'm going to critique it, because I started getting people with recommendations, their own lists yesterday. Tom from Margate said in his list yesterday, and I think that we all can agree this is going to be a subjective list.
Yes. And it's generational, too.
But there are some people I feel who have to be on the list no matter what.
Right.
I feel like there's a handful of people that will be on everyone's list.
I can't wait.
It might not be that's why I didn't do a Mount Rushmore. It's a long list.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who could fit on the list.
Yeah, there's a few guys that can fit on this list, most definitely. And I tried going generation before me too, showing my history, my historical knowledge. So I wanted to make it fair, because
you wanted to flex.
Yes, of course.
Josh Hennick, Nick Earnshaw filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN. Still to come on the show, of course, We got Adam Kaplan, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad, talking about the Phillies coming up at 5. And you guys can join the conversation as well. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Don't forget tonight on 97.3 Eagles, Ravens preseason game number 1. Coverage begins at 6:30. And then the Hall of Famer, Mel Reese. Isn't it cool to say the Hall of Famer, Mel Reese and Mike Quick call all the action here in your home for Eagles football in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Josh Hay along with Nick Earnshaw. Happy Hour Friday edition of the Sports Bash. 3 o'clock hour being brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. Broadleaf's is your trusted source for air conditioning and plumbing services. And Nick, with all the crazy weather going on, isn't it time for you to call Broadleaf's to come check out your air system? Maybe make sure your plumbing and everything is all up to snuff. 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleafs.net. By the way, do you recognize this song?
Yes, I do. Beastie Boys.
There you go.
Beastie Boys. Come on, I knew this one. I like the Beastie Boys. Showing my historical knowledge here.
Yeah, I like to see what you know and don't know. I'd like to try to test you out a little bit over there.
Like the Beastie Boys. Big fan. I started a couple of, when I filled in for you on game night, I started with the Beastie Boys. I did Sabotage. Opened it up with.
You did. You did. I didn't remember that, so.
Bad job by you.
Or it's not.
It's a bad job.
Listen, I'm more interested in listening to you if you're hosting than the music that you're playing.
That's true. That's true. I was playing some bangers. I can't lie. I opened the show with Beastie Boys. I mean, come on.
Well, of course,
that's how you open the show.
Of course, you think they're bangers. They're your music.
Kind of, but they were like 90s, right? I mean, they're 90s, early 2000s. I was youngin'.
I've never heard somebody say, I played a bad song.
No, I've heard that before.
I have.
I've definitely heard that before. Someone who takes the auxiliary at like a party or something. This is not a good song. They played the wrong song. They came in their QE on their playlist. It's a bad song.
Well, that's someone who's just a little tipsy. You know,
that's
true. They're kind of like half in between being honest and half not paying attention.
So sober, you haven't heard someone say they played a bad song.
Yeah.
All right. Then I'm probably with you there.
Yeah. What was that song? Was it Adele? Find Me When You're Sober?
I don't know. I listen to the Adele hits, but I don't even know. Are you a big Adele fan? Is that what I'm hearing?
Not really. I mean,
Jumping into her album?
I know enough of the music to like know who she is kind of
right.
thing.
Speaking of music, I was on my way in today and the rapper Logic dropped a new album. There was an Avante Maddox line in there.
What?
I was shocked. Do you believe this? It's on his new album, Ultra 85, that came out today. Ghost in the Machine. He didn't say it. A feature on the song said it. And I almost stopped my car on the expressway. I couldn't believe I heard Avante Maddox's name come up on a Logic song. Craziness.
Is that where we are now?
That's where we're at.
I mean,
that's where we're at.
Come on, man.
Do you believe that? Like playing corner like Avante Maddox or something was the line. I have to look it up. I tweeted it out at N Earnshaw Radio. If you want to go find the tweet, I tweeted out the line and the song. So if you want to go check it out,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, isn't it
Avante
crazy?
Maddox should not be dropped in a song.
No, I didn't know he had that kind of aura, Josh. Like his aura, like dropping in a rap song. I didn't think Avante Maddox was like that, but I guess so.
I mean, I think was it Ja Rule who dropped Bob Costas in a song once?
Probably. I've heard Curry before.
No, it's Ludacris.
Oh, Ludacris.
Ludacris dropped Bob Costas' name in a song one time, and Bob Costas like quoted the entire song almost on like a post game show.
Yeah.
And because people were like making fun of him because he's old. He's Bob Costas, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you know who my favorite rapper is? And they're like, who? He's like, Ludacris. He mentioned me in a song. And like, everyone just started losing it because they were like, Bob Costas is like now quoting Ludacris because he named him in a song.
That's so crazy. Yeah, Avante Maddox was not a name I was expecting to hear in a rap song. Just wasn't expecting it. Like, you would think Darius Slay, he's one of the best corners in football for a while now.
Right.
Avante Maddox. How about that?
That's ridiculous. All right, let's get to, so we promised this list. We have people texting in at 609-403-0970. So the idea was yesterday, Nick Foles retires from the NFL. Is going to have official retirement ceremony as an Eagle, which is only appropriate, on opening home night in September, Monday Night Football. Jason Kelce will be there, obviously, because of ESPN. So, Nick Earnshaw, you and I were talking about the idea of the top 10 athletes who were born to play in Philadelphia. So, I mentioned yesterday off the top of my head, you know, you guys got guys like Nick Foles, Brian Dawkins, Bryce Harper. You know, I personally threw out there Brian Propp of the Flyers, Chuck Bednarik of the Eagles. So I got my own list of randos, but you've been working diligently on your own top 10. So let's share it with the people, and we'll get the texts that are coming in at 609-403-0973.
Okay, so my top 10 Philly athletes born to play here. I'll go from 10 to 1, okay? I just want to preface with this. I don't think my numbering and you know, the order is great. I wish there might be guys I would want to change by tomorrow, but this is what I ended up with.
By tomorrow?
Yeah.
Not by the next hour?
But these are the names that have to be in the top 10. They have to be in the top 10. So number 10, I have to go Richie Ashburn. Richie Ashburn needed to make this list. A fantastic Hall of Fame player here, and then was even more beloved when he was in the booth with Harry Kalas. So Richie Ashburn had to make this list somehow, some way. He's number 10. Number 9, Reggie White. I mean, the greatest defensive player in Eagles history, no doubt about it. One of at least. Top 2. You could argue whatever it may be. Reggie White, number 9. Number 8. Chase Utley. Chase Utley was beloved here. Has to be here. He was born to play here. His mentality, he played the game hard. He always hustled. Utley has to be on the list. He's number 8. Number 7, have to go Nick Foles. So he falls out of my top 5, but he's still on the list. He has to be there. Obviously won the Super Bowl, always played well with the Eagles. It didn't matter when. He was usually playing well, and his best football of his career was with the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, number 6.
All right, so hold on a sec. So back up. So number 10 was who again?
Richie Ashburn.
Okay. So my only problem with Whitey is I think that you're basing some of that on Whitey the broadcaster and not as much as Whitey the player. Because people forget, Whitey was not like an elite like power hitter. He was a leadoff slap hitter who hit for average, you know, in the Hall of Fame.
He's a Hall of Famer.
I think it might be a little nostalgia with that.
It helped. It helped with him being in the booth.
There's a little nostalgia there, but it's a solid pull.
Yes.
I disagree with Reggie for this reason.
Okay.
Reggie was a nice human being. Like, Reggie would blast you and then help you up and say, God bless you.
Yes.
You know, to me, like, he's not mean and angry enough. He's not as, you know, dirt and, blue collar. He's more of like, you know, he's going to come to your city, tell you about the gospel, go get some sacks and go home.
I see, but he did his job. Josh, and he's beloved here.
Like,
so
to me,
born to play here.
Seth Joyner is more born to play here than Reggie is.
Okay. All right. It's a fair argument, but I think Reggie was born to play. All right. Number 6. Number 6. All right. Bobby Clark, the ultimate flyer.
That's a good one.
Bobby Clark has to be on this list, no doubt. I mean, the guy won Stanley Cups here. He's the first captain. The guy just screams Philadelphia as well. All right. Number 5, Chuck Bednarik. I mean, one of the last of the two-way players, played center, has to be on this list.
It's a must. That's a great pull by a young Nick Earnshaw over there.
Oh, I know the story of Chuck Bednarik. You can't work in this area in sports if you don't know the story of the great Chuck Bednarik.
But see, it's not just about the story of Chuck Bednarik. It's the fact of if you get to talk to the old-timers who either covered Chuck or knew Chuck Bednarik through different channels or whatever. Like, I've heard stories about Chuck Bednarik, like how he was off the field.
Yeah.
And like, it was like legendary stories.
Yep. I mean, the guy didn't miss games. Like, he did, and he played both sides of the ball. I mean, that's insane stuff right there. All right. Number 4, Bryce Harper. I mean, the guy was just born to play here. And, I might be racially biased a little bit having him this high, but my goodness. I mean, the guy does everything right. He goes about his business. He loves Philadelphia. The pandering might be a little too much at times.
No, the pandering's fine.
It's fine.
Nick Sirianni's pandering is too much.
Yes.
Bryce Harper
is perfect.
He embraces. He owns. He has enveloped himself in the flag of Philadelphia, metaphorically, right? The idea that, like, you know, me and Billy Schweim used to argue about this when he first signed in Philadelphia. And I used to tell Billy in the locker room on the weekends here on 97.3 ESPN, I'm like, listen, he is the player you love to hate, but when he's on team, he's your villain. He's your monster. He's your bad guy. You know what I mean? And I think that people like Billy Schweim and others have realized that I was right. That, you know, it's the idea that you love to hate him if he's on the other team. You know, he's like, you know, Dennis Rodman.
Right.
You know, he's one of those guys who, he's a hate the face, right? But if he's your hate the face, you love him to death.
Yeah, I mean, around the league, he gets, you know, the chance of overrated and then hits a home run. Like, it's great. When he's on your team, it's fantastic.
And then he screams, let's effing go. And everyone's getting ready to run through a wall. You know what I mean? Yeah, I like if Harper's one of those guys that you could have seen maybe play like football too.
Yeah, he could have played any sport. I mean, the guy was a phenom coming up through the teenage years. Like, he belonged to play here and he was born to play here. No doubt in my mind.
So that's number 4.
That's number 4.
All right.
Top 3. Number 3, Brian Dawkins. Easy. I mean, he was born to play here. The passion he played with. I mean, he was one of the best Eagles of all time. He's still beloved by fans. You're going to see a Brian Dawkins jersey everywhere you go. I mean, so Brian Dawkins, number 3. I think that one was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, Dawkins is also my favorite Eagle of all time, so I can't argue.
Yes. Number 2, Allen Iverson. I have Iverson at 2. I think Iverson was born to play here. I mean, the passion he played with, I mean, people loved him during that run he had with the 76ers. I can't not put him there. Now, you could flip-flop Iverson and Dawkins. I think that's easy to say. Like, you could flip-flop those two at 2 and 3 on my list. Like I said, I'll be changing this list by tomorrow. But Allen Iverson, I had to have up there in the top 3 somewhere.
All right.
And number 1, it's the easiest one of all time, Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce was born to be a Philadelphia Eagle. I mean, the guy's always hanging out in Sea Isle, the beers, the passion. I mean, there's no way you can't have Jason Kelce not number 1. The guy is Philadelphia through and through. I mean, the speech he gave at the Super Bowl parade embodied this city in every shape, every form ever. Like, I mean, when you talk about underdogs, Jason Kelce is the embodiment of Philadelphia. He's got to be number 1. He was born to play in this city, and he's going to be one of the all-time Eagles ever. He might be the all-time Eagle ever.
Gotta say, outside of 2 names, I think it's a good list.
All right.
I think it's a good list. All right. Now, before we get to my list, text board 609-403-0973. Jeff from Ocean City says, I'm going to give you a 4-for-4 Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
Now, he didn't really follow the instructions because it wasn't an Mount Rushmore, Jeff from Ocean City. It was players who were born to be in Philadelphia.
If you noticed, I didn't have one name on there that people may argue with me about. Mike Schmidt.
Mike Schmidt was not born.
Was he born to play here?
He's a great all-time player.
Yes, he was great.
But he doesn't embody Philadelphia like some of the other guys you named.
Yeah, I think the guys I named embodied this city and knew what this city was about, and they understood it. Like, the total opposite end, like I mentioned yesterday, Ben Simmons. Guy did not get this city. The guy just did not get this city. He was a loser. He didn't hustle, nothing. So Ben Simmons, other side of this list. These guys were born to play. They don't even have to be the best players of all time. Most of my guys were great players, but they don't have to be the best players of all time, Josh.
So Jeff from Ocean City's names he put out there are Bernie Parent, great pull, Canadian who was embraced by Philadelphia, Brian Dawkins, who we all named, Chuck Bednarik, who we all named, Tug McGraw, we didn't mention him, but
it's a good one.
Tugger, I mean, listen, he was also a guy, you know, before Jason Kelce came to Seattle, Tug McGraw came to Seattle. Nick Earnshaw in the 80s, okay? He used to be seen over there at Bush's Seafood, which is not there anymore, down in around 86, 87th Street in Sea Isle. But he was one of the celebrities you'd be seen over there at Bush's pretty often.
Yeah.
He was a man of the people, as I've been told stories about. Also, he names Larry Boa, which is also a great pull.
That's a good one.
Larry Boa as a player and a manager.
That's a good one. This is a hard list, Josh. I mean, there was guys that left. I was like, they could be on the top 10. But yeah, Larry Boa is a great one. He definitely could make it on this list for sure.
So I want to get to Tom from Margate. So I want to give you his list from yesterday. Okay? So Tom from Margate gave us his list yesterday. I want to acknowledge it.
Okay.
So I want your reactions to these names, okay?
Yep.
Tom from Margate's an older gentleman, just to let you know, Nick. So he might go a little lean in one direction,
right.
Okay? Wilt Chamberlain, Allen Iverson, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ricky Bottalico, Mike Schmidt, Chuck Bednarik, Ron Jaworski, Bernie Perron.
I have some issues with that list. Born to play here doesn't necessarily mean best player. That's kind of the trick here, right? Like
Correct.
that's the fine line you have to kind of toe if you're making this list. The born to play, they embodied this city, they embodied this team, their team that they played for. Man, Mike Schmidt, like I mentioned, I don't think he should be on that list. Wilt, I don't know. Wilt might be. I could see why he's on this list. I get that, but he also played for the Lakers. He played elsewhere as well. I can understand Wilt being on the list. Best player of all time. Wilt, certainly. Born to play here. Obviously, if he's I'm younger, so it would make more sense that he has Wilt on his list.
609-403-0973 is the text board. By the way, Thea is mad at me because I said I wanted Christian Pache to get hit in the head.
Yeah, see? I'm with her on that. You don't want to get hit in the head. Not great.
Listen, I got hit a lot when I played baseball, and I'm fine.
Yeah, he'll turn out fine. He'll be good.
He'll be fine.
He'll be good. He'll be good. He'll be fine. He's not getting hit in the head. Hopefully not.
Now, the texter's name is CM.
Okay.
Not CM Punk.
Not CM Punk. Not the wrestler.
CM chimes in and says, let me clarify that I personally despise Philly sports, but frequently listen to you guys' shows. How can you not have Mike Schmidt in your top 10? And the fact that Josh said Reggie White is arguably the greatest defensive end of all time wasn't in a player born to play in Philadelphia is crazy. That's from CM. So, again, CM, the list isn't the greatest Philly athletes of all time. It's the greatest athletes who embody the spirit and the nature of the city. The city is blue collar. The city is not fancy. The city is not, it's not glamorous, okay? You want glamorous, you don't come to Philadelphia, all right? There's some beautiful spots in Philadelphia, don't get me wrong, along the certain parts of the bay, right? But it's not a city known for its glamour. It's not known for its bling, right? It's not known for its, even the rappers in Philadelphia, they're a little bit, tough. Meek Mill, Army of the Pharaohs, Jedi Mind Tricks, Freeway, those hip-hop artists, they're not exactly Jay-Z, right? You know what I mean? They don't have the glam to them. So that's what I'm talking about, CM. It's the idea that Mike Schmidt wasn't everyone Nick Earnshaw named, except for Richie Ashburn, no offense to Whitey, you want them on your side in a bar fight. Okay?
Right.
Nick Earnshaw didn't name a single guy who was worried about his hair or his pedicure. You know what I mean? Reggie White is more likely going to officiate a peace treaty than he is to scrap. You know what I mean? Mike Schmidt, greatest third baseman of all time, right? But come on.
Embodying the city. That's kind of the list I was trying to go for.
And
right?
I think Nick Earnshaw did a good job.
Not great?
Good. It's good.
I think it was great.
Jeff from Ocean State chimed in said Mike Schmidt does not belong on your list. He was not loved by the fans and even wore a wig on the field one day.
Schmidt is, if you put him on the best Philly athletes of all time, he's obviously up there. But born to play here, embodied the city, rough and tough kind of attitude, right? Always hustled. That's who I'm looking at. Those are the type of players that I wanted to add to my list and who Philadelphia just adored.
Brett chimes in on the text board at 609-403-0973. He says, how do you guys not have Pete Rose on your lists?
Was he born to play here? Best player? Yeah. I don't know if he was born to play, and he played most of his time in Cincinnati.
I mean, he definitely embodies the nature of the city, but I think a lot of us just have a negative view of Pete
Negative
Rose.
connotation, yeah.
Yeah, because, and to me, it's not the gambling. I actually don't care about that.
No.
Listen, I've always said, Nick Earnshaw, and this is controversial, Pete Rose betting on baseball didn't bother me for one reason. He always bet for his team to win.
Yeah. He didn't bet against his team.
Doesn't that give him incentive to want to win more? Because he put his own money on his team to win?
Yeah. And, well, I will just preface this. Put him in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's ridiculous. I have so much beef with the Hall of Fame.
But put a plaque there that explains what happened.
I'm with that with the steroid era guys. Like, they all should be in too. Like, you go to, I was just there, Josh, and on the second floor, third floor, whatever it may be, they have the entire history of the steroid era, and they have stuff about Pete Rose there. You just don't have the plaque there in the downstairs part. It's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. You're mentioning their name. You're talking about them in some form, some way in the part of the museum that's all the all the memorabilia and talking about the history of the game. You're mentioning them. So just put them in the hall. They're already there, essentially. Like, the hypocrisy is just crazy to me. It's crazy. Like, you might as well put them in. It's a history of the game.
It's a museum.
It's a museum. Exactly. So, yeah, put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Embodying Philadelphia, you can make an argument. I think it's just because there's such a negative connotation with Pete Rose and some of the things that have happened since he's left,
tough,
retired. It's a tough one. So I see your argument. I see it.
Jay from AC says, how about John Runyon and Bernard Hopkins?
Ooh, I wasn't going, so I saw someone say Joe Frazier as well. Like, we weren't going boxing here. I was just going the four majors.
Which is fine.
Yeah, I was just going four majors. I wasn't touching boxing or anything outside of that.
B-Hop is arguably the second greatest Philly fighter of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. If you're adding
Joe Frazier's number one for Philadelphia, B-Hop is number two. They both embody the spirit of Philadelphia.
If you're going outside of the four majors, yes, Joe Frazier, Bernard Hopkins definitely get consideration. For sure. I mean, Joe Frazier has to be on the list.
By the way, I guess it's not Nick Earnshaw, but Nick from South Jersey says Pete Rose should be on there somewhere too.
Okay. It's fine. That's fine. I hear
people
what you're saying.
named Nick. That's what I'm finding out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people named Nick in South Jersey. It's a great name. It's fantastic.
It's too many.
Too many.
Keep track of all you guys.
Too many Nicks?
Too many
Nick
Nicks.
Foles.
Nick Earnshaw, Nick from South Jersey.
Nick Sirianni.
My buddy from high school, Nick Purcell.
There you go.
I mean.
A lot of Nicks.
A lot of Knicks, man. Not the New York Knicks here.
No, they're the bad Knicks. They're the wrong Knicks.
Tim from Summers Point gives a list. Okay. He says Jeremiah Trotter, John Kruk, Herm Edwards, Chocolate Thunder, Daryl Dawkins.
I like this list.
And LaShawn McCoy, Shady. Okay.
I like that list. Those
so the
guys...
only problem I have with the list is one name. The last one.
Shady.
Shady was Shady.
20 Cent?
20 Cent Shady, man. That ain't Philly, man.
No.
He's
cool.
If you ever watch him on the show Speak on FS1, he's always got like the prettiest suit, the designer glasses on. He's a little too pretty for Philadelphia.
I love the way he played, though. He did play the game the right way. When he was an Eagle.
Like, I love Jeremiah Trotter. Jeremiah Trotter's on my list, by the way.
Yeah, I think
Trott's on my list.
One. Yeah.
Kruk is also on my list. I mean, Kruk is Philly.
Kruk, yeah. I mean, Kruk's Philadelphia.
I mean,
that might be a bad job by me. I might have to have him on there.
Herm Edwards is a great pull, because people forget Herm Edwards played here.
Yeah.
Remember, that's the first miracle of the Meadowlands is his scoop and score. And Herm, I mean, you play to win the game.
Yep.
That speech. He's an old school mentality.
Miracle in the Meadowlands, number one.
Yep. Daryl Dawkins also is a great pull.
Yep.
Chocolate Thunder, he was a character.
Yeah.
He was a character.
Yeah, he was.
Let's get one more text in for me at the break at 609-403-0973. Jeff from Summers Point, Mr. Bud Light himself, says, by the way, I'm sipping on my Bud Lights and Fireballs.
Whoa. Okay, Jeff.
That's how Jeff rolls, man.
Is it Jeff from OC?
No, it's Jeff from Summers Point.
Oh, Summers
Point. This is Jeff with a J.
Okay.
Jeff from OC stays with a G.
Okay.
Jeff from Summers Point with a J.
Yeah, the one with the G, I think he's not a flats guy. So, we have a little beef because he's not a flats guy.
Well, Jeff from Summers Point,
let me know.
He has, literally, I met Jeff from Summers Point and he bought me a beer.
There you go.
Of course, with a Bud Light.
Yeah.
Hands it right to me.
There you go.
Says Bud Light. Jeff from Summers Point.
Fireball too, huh?
Like, isn't that one of the
Strong
greatest?
combination.
No, but hold on. I've known that Jeff from Summers Point is a Bud Light and Fireball guy for a while. Happy Hour Friday. I know him for that. The man literally introduces himself. Here's a Bud Light. Jeff from Summers Point.
That's great. That is fantastic.
That's a great introduction, right?
It's a heck of an introduction.
Right,
I wish I had something like that.
Here's his list. All right. Eric Lindros, Jeremiah Trotter, Curt Schilling, Nick Foles, Joel Embiid, Julius Erving, Brian Dawkins, Jason Kelsey, Bryce Harper, Allen Iverson. Honorable mention, Deuce Staley.
Okay. Deuce, yeah, I guess.
So I have two problems with the list.
I guess.
I don't put Joel Embiid on the list.
I was having this debate in my head when I was coming up with this list too. But this is so hard. I have no words. We're on radio. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I really don't. I don't know how to explain it. Like, he does embody Philadelphia though, but I don't know. The
I don't
laziness
think he belongs in the top 10.
The top 10 is where I get a little, because it's sometimes you get
Mopey
Deuce
Staley ahead of Joel Embiid in this situation.
Because you can get Mopey Joel at times.
Yep.
That's like,
that's my problem.
I get annoyed with that at times.
I love the addition of Curt Schilling. Remember, he was arguably the best pitcher on the 93 Phillies when he was a young guy.
Right.
And then he had those 300 strikeout seasons back to back when the Phillies stunk.
Mm-hmm.
And then he carried that toughness to Boston with the bloody sock game.
Yeah.
In 2004. The dude is a borderline Hall of Fame pitcher. And he wasn't because he was a grinder. He was tough. I understand some people don't like his politics after his career. I've actually been told that there are some writers who will not vote for Curt Schilling because of his politics.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the sentiment out there with Schilling. I like the Trotter, and you have Trotter on your list, don't you? I think Trotter's a good one. Man,
my only problem with this list,
is a tough one. Yeah,
Lindros.
Yeah,
I think Lindros is now more appreciated because he kind of like owned his problems now.
Yeah.
He kind of has embraced the fact that, hey, I might not have been the best citizen of Philadelphia when I was here, kind of thing. Great player, legendary story of the franchise history, but I wouldn't put him on my list.
It got me thinking for Monday, Josh, because you and I will be together again on Monday.
Yes.
We should do the complete opposite, like we were talking about with Ben Simmons. Let's do the opposite, who were not born to play here, okay? We're gonna do that for Monday, because that one we're gonna have a lot of fun with too. This one's been a lot of fun, but I think we should do that too.
All right, we got more text to get to on the other side. 609-403-0973. He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill on a happy hour of the Friday of the Sports Bash. 97.3 ESPN FM and a 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City.
You're listening to the Sport.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Along with Nick Earnshaw, I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. The 3 o'clock hour is being brought to you by Broadleys Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadleys is your trusted source for air conditioning, plumbing services, heating, installation, and maintenance for generations. Call them at 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleys.net. I mean, if we're talking about Philly, I gotta come back with a little Meek Mill.
That's a good job by you. Uptown Vibes by Meek. It's a good one. Great beat, too.
It's probably my favorite beat of his.
Yeah, it's up there. That's gotta be up there. I love this beat. It's just such a great instrumental to come back from. Good job by you. I didn't recommend that to you either.
No, I did it all on my own.
Look at you.
All by myself.
Good job over there.
I'm so used to riding solo that I don't even ask Nick what he wants to listen to. I just figure it out.
Yeah, you already know. You already know my vibe.
I got the Beastie Boys lined up. I got Meek Mill. I'll probably play Kendrick Lamar at some point today. the usual.
Yeah, the usual. What we need. It was a good job by you.
Yeah.
I'll give you
All
credit.
right. So before we get to the text, I want to give you my 10.
Let's hear it.
All right. Now, I will admit, this is not a literal order. Because like you, I had a lot of trouble numbering.
I know.
this.
I feel bad that I numbered a little bit because it's so hard to rank them like 1 through 10. You could mix and match that list in so many different ways. So I'm excited to hear yours.
All right. So number 10 for me is Keith Primo. All right. People don't really talk about him a lot, but he was the guy who the Flyers got for Eric Lindros. The man was pure heart, blood, and guts. Okay? That guy was tougher than tough. I mean, that guy could score a goal on you and kick your rear in like 5 seconds apart from each other. The guy was amazing.
I like it. That's a good poll by you.
My number 4, I went Jeremiah Trotter, the Axeman.
Yep.
I mean, Trotter was Philly. The man literally couldn't, he was like Nick Foles. He couldn't play anywhere else. He only had success in Philadelphia.
Yep. Yeah, I should have included him. I totally just disregarded Trotter. It's a bad job by me.
Then I went John Kruk.
Yep.
Okay, I know most people, have opinions about him as a broadcaster now. You go back to those early 90s teams, Kruk was like the face of those teams in many ways, just as much as Darren Dalton was. I was thinking going Dalton, but Dalton was a little too pretty.
Okay.
Like Dutch was, like, I know you're very young for this, Nick, but like Dutch Dalton was looked at the way women today look at Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, really?
Like Darren Dalton was like every woman's like hall pass.
That's fantastic.
In the early 90s.
That's fantastic.
Like there were women who would tell their husbands or boyfriends, I'm just letting you know if Dalton comes along.
Darren Dalton's an absolute legend. You could honestly put him on this list, but Kruk, I think you went right way with Kruk because, I mean, he is just Philadelphia tough, grimy. Yeah, he's that guy.
Then I went Nick Foles.
Yep.
Has to be on here. Doesn't need to be explained.
Finally, a good Nick Foles take by you. It's about time. It's about time.
I did go Bobby Clark like you did. Mm-hmm. So, also Bryce Harper, Brian Dawkins, Allen Iverson.
Yep.
I made Chuck Bednarik my number 1.
Okay. You don't have no Kelsey.
No Kelsey.
Wow. You don't have Kelsey on your list?
Honorable mention.
No. All right. Chuck Bednarik, great, deserves to be on the list. But the fact you don't have Jason Kelsey, how do you not have Jason Kelsey on this list? Josh, this is an atrocity. I was with you until you said you didn't have Jason Kelsey. What?
Who are you taking off the list?
Could you repeat it again? Repeat it for the audience and repeat it for me. Because I got to write this down. I wasn't writing. I was just kind of soaking it in over here.
Keith Primo.
Okay.
You're so depressed over there.
Okay. Wow. This is an embarrassment.
Jeremiah Trotter.
Okay.
John Kruk.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Foles.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I on the list? My list is a mess here. Oh, Bobby Clark.
Yep.
Bryce Harper, Brian Dawkins, Allen Iverson, Chuck Bednarik.
Okay, you can take off Keith Primo or Trotter over. You can't have those guys over Kelsey. Kelsey needs to be up there on the list. Like the other guys are fine to be on there, but the fact you don't have Jason Kelsey, someone's got to get cut. And listen, Trotter, great. He can make the list. He can make a list. But over Jason Kelsey? Josh, I'm disappointed. Why? Why is Jason Kelsey not on your list? I need to hear this explanation.
It's not because he doesn't deserve consideration. I just had stronger feelings about other guys. So, if I take someone off...
Primo or Trotter? Or Kruk? Because Kruk, I feel like, he did embody it. But, Kelsey did it for how long? Years and years and years. His whole entire career was with the Eagles. I would, over Kruk, Primo, and Trotter, I'd have them on this list. No doubt about it. The other guys could stay because you need to fill all the spots. But I think Kelsey's above all of them. All of them. Bednarik, I'll argue. That's arguable. Bednarik's arguable. Especially, going back to that generation. I mean, the guy was a two-way player. He was also a center, embodied Philadelphia.
And a linebacker.
As well. He was the last of the two-way player. But the fact you don't have Jason Kelsey on there is an atrocity, an abomination, and a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Josh, he is Philadelphia. The speech he made at the Super Bowl parade. I mean, it doesn't get more underdog, more Philly than that. It doesn't.
You done?
I'm done.
Text board is 609-403-0973. Alex chimes in and says Kobe Bryant was born to play in Philadelphia, even though he didn't.
Okay. I see where he's coming from. We wanted to stick with players that did play here that belonged here.
Right. And I was trying to kind of stay in that vein.
609-403-0973. Please tell me that Jason Kelce's on all your lists.
Tom from the Villas has Vince Papale, Jeremiah Trotter, and Andre Waters.
Is that just 3 people? Just 3?
Well, he's throwing in people that
you could add. Okay.
Right, you could add.
Right.
Now, Vince Papale is a great pull.
That's a good one.
Mr. Invincible.
Yep.
He's been a guest on Billy Schweim Show a bunch of times.
Yes.
The only problem with Vince is who do you take off the list to put him on?
Yeah.
Like Nick Earnshaw explaining to me that I need to put Jason Kelce on. I get it. Like I see it. Like, and if you told me I gotta take Jeremiah Trotter off, put Kelce on, or whatever, like we could have that conversation. I can't rationalize taking anyone off my list for Vince Papale.
Yeah, but you can rationalize definitely putting Jason Kelce on.
I can rationalize that for sure. But Andre Waters is the same. It's like Waters was a great hitting safety, but he ain't
top 10.
He ain't top 10.
But you're also saying Jason Kelce's not top 10. You're making an honorable mention. This is craziness. Jason Kelce's Philadelphia. Josh, we gotta. So you know how I said that I'm probably gonna update my list again by tomorrow, and I'll make changes. You need to do the same thing. You need to do the same. I think you might need to do it in the next 30 seconds because I mean, Jason Kelce not being on this list. You
need a breather over there. Nick.
I'm gonna take a drink or something.
You need like a Xanax or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't need to go there, but wow, I did not expect that out of you. Sea Isle. The Super Bowl speech, the games he played almost every game.
Listen, I'm not. Listen, I'm not Pat Costello.
Oh.
Okay, I'm not the producer for the ESPN National Morning Show with Evan Cohen, Chris Canny, and Michelle Smallman. I don't get to hang out with Jason Kelce. Okay, the whole him and Sea Isle thing doesn't get me.
You don't need to. You don't need to hang out with him for him to put on your list. The guy embodied. We're talking about players that embodied Philadelphia, and no one has embodied him more than Jason Kelce. Not anyone on my list. He's number 1.
Right,
if I had to make a list,
you need to breathe.
I'm trying. You got me going over here.
An anonymous texter says we should have mentioned Scott Hartnell.
Okay,
that's a recency bias to me.
Honorable mention.
Not top 10.
Not top 10. Honorable mention.
Honorable mention for sure.
Apparently, honorable mention just like Jason Kelce and Josh's list.
I think this one will get you more mad than the Kelce one, which is Estrada from Hamilton.
Hey.
Says, I'm sorry, guys, but let me give an honorable mention to the Italian stallion, Rocky Balboa.
Oh, no.
See, that's a bad job by Estrada. Here's the thing, Estrada. That's a bad job by you for this reason. He's a fictional character.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah, no. Listen, love Rocky, love the movies. Love the whole idea. But we're talking about top 10 athletes from the 4 major sports that embodied this city. Not a fictional character. That's fictional.
Not a fictional.
As someone who went to high school in Hamilton, bad job, Estrada. Bad job. You gotta send us in another name. Send us in another name.
So what is worse? Me having Jason Kelce honorable mention or Estrada saying that Rocky Balboa should be out there?
Oh, well, I think it's got to be you. I'm sorry,
come on,
John.
No, Rocky's the worst.
It's bad.
You're just biased to Hamilton.
No, I'm not.
Go get yourself some blueberries.
I will. No, you didn't have Jason. You're wearing an Eagles shirt right now. If you're watching on the Twitter X platform while we're streaming, you don't have Jason Kelce. We're talking about embodied this city, and you don't have Jason Kelce in your top 10. Top 10.
I didn't say I wouldn't put him in there. You need to relax over there.
You got me fired up.
Kevin from Brigantine chimes in and says, I got some names to throw out there for you guys. Steve Carlton, Tug McGraw, Bobby Clark, Bertie Perron, Darren Dalton. That's from Kevin and Brigantine.
Okay.
My only problem with Carlton is that Carlton was a little more like odd and zany than he was like natural Philly.
Right.
Tug McGraw, definitely. I mean, I have some people who have told me stories about Tug McGraw. I mentioned him earlier. Bertie Perron's a great pull. I always feel like Perron gets forgotten because as time goes by. But it's not like one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. Yep. Bernie was tough, man. Bernie was like the Rock of those Flyers teams in the 70s.
I would honestly probably put Bernie over Keith Primo, too. I think Bernie's like right outside my top 10, I think. Like, he's right there, and you could honestly put him in. Like, I could maybe make a switch. But over Primo, yeah, I could see Bernie Parent being over Primo because one of the best goaltenders ever. I mean, he embodied this city for sure. So I think Bernie might have to even put over Keith Primo.
Joe in Pleasantville chimes in and says, I love Allen Iverson, but he should not be on the list. Corey Detmer should be. That's a bad take by Joe.
No. Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson was blood and guts.
Yes.
Allen Iverson gave you everything and more. And Corey Detmer, really? You're giving me Mr. Neckbeard to be on the list?
No, Iverson gave you everything he had every single night he stepped on the floor. Now, practice? Maybe not. But during the game, he gave you 1,000% every single night. And that's an embodiment of Philadelphia. When you were going out there hustling and, giving all that you got on every single given occasion that you're out there, that's Philadelphia. And that's what people in this city expect and want to see. Iverson did that, for sure.
Another texter chimed in says, how about Dave Schultz? Good pull.
Good pull. Yep.
I feel like that might have been Billy Schwan texting in, though.
It might have been. Is it Billy?
I don't know. I don't really remember what Billy's number is off the top of my head.
It's because Billy's a big hockey guy. He's going to lean hockey guys.
I can totally see Billy Schwein making a top 10 list of just Flyers.
Yeah, it would just all be Flyers players. He might leave off Jason Kelce too, like you.
No, he would do. Billy would have like 2 Eagles and the rest would be Flyers.
Yes. Is baseball a sport in this city? Do they play? What's that? Sixers? Oh, there's another team that shares a stadium with the Flyers? I didn't know that.
Which is funny because it would be the opposite. Like Mike Gill would have like one Flyer on the list and everybody else would be like Phillies and Eagles.
Kind of like me. Yeah. I mean, kind of like me here. I got mainly Phillies and Eagles on this list.
By the way, we'll confirm the John for the Villas. We have mentioned Brian Dawkins multiple times.
Yes.
We have Dawk on both of our lists. He says, Weapon X was the heart and soul of the city, says John from the Villas.
Yes.
No, we agree on that. I don't think the contention, I think we all agree that in some capacity, some order, Chuck Bednarik, Brian Dawkins, Bryce Harper, Allen Iverson, Nick Foles on everybody's list.
And Jason Kelce, other than yours. Other than yours.
I told you I'm making a modification. Okay,
you got to make a modification.
I don't know who I'm taking off yet. I haven't figured that out. Okay, I haven't figured it out.
You're making a modification. We're going to make sure you do during the commercial break. Your official list that goes out on social media when you tweet out, because I'm going to tweet out my list during the show or after the show. And I need you to tweet out your official list. That'll be the official finalized version.
How about you tweet out my list next to your list?
Okay, that's fair.
And people can vote on it.
That's fine. I'll do it.
Take it to the people.
Take it to the people.
Democracy.
Yes, that's what we do here.
He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN Happy Hour Friday edition. More text to get to on the other side, 609-403-0973. And don't forget Adam Kaplan coming up for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Eagles, Ravens, preseason game number 1 tonight. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Nick Earnshaw along with Josh Hennig live in the Ocean Casino Resort of Atlantic City Studios. 97.3 ESPN FM. Let's squeeze in some more text from people that... So we've been giving out our players who were born to play in Philadelphia. They embody the heart of the city. Matt from Sicklerville chimes in and says Chase Utley and Charles Barkley. Now, I don't dislike the Charles Barkley mention, Nick Earnshaw. My only problem with it is I feel like Barkley's more beloved now than he was when he played. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think now because, he's on TNT, I think it's because he's been such a personality as a broadcaster that people love him much more than back then.
By the way, your boy Estrada says he's trying to redeem himself.
Okay.
He says Greg Luzinski. That's a great pull.
See, there you go.
That's a great pull.
Yeah, they're my people from Hamilton. Yes, that is a great pull.
That's a redemption right there.
Yeah, you definitely redeemed yourself, Estrada. Great pull by you. Yeah, you got to go 4 majors here. We left out the boxers, understand that, but fictional character. We can't go fictional character. Greg Luzinski, great job by you.
Arthur from Mays Landing joins you, Nick Earnshaw. He says, I'm a Josh Hennick fan, but I'm not a fan of Kelce not being on your list.
Oh, okay.
He says also, Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley need to be on anyone's list.
Yeah, Jimmy, I just had to get other people in. I had to try and get other sports in there, you know?
By the way, an anonymous texter said, how about Big Dom?
Oh, no. I mean, listen, he embodies Philadelphia. Italian.
He's not an athlete.
He's not an athlete.
And he has bad pizza taste.
Yeah.
You see that social media post a few months ago on the Ocean City Boardwalk?
Yes.
I mean, he picked the worst pizza on the Ocean City Boardwalk.
Yeah, no.
You can't be a real Italiano and pick that pizza.
Oh. See, I think he embodies Philadelphia, but no, not on the top 10 list. No way.
Coming up next, we'll get back to the Eagles. Speaking of Big Dom, Eagles-Ravens preseason game tonight. Who are the players Adam Kaplan is keeping an eye on? That's next on 97.3 ESPN.
Jersey, 97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I give my heart and soul to this franchise, as so many of us do.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Josh Hennick alongside Nick Earnshaw here at Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, as we are live in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. As we do every Friday here on 97.3 ESPN, we are joined by the one and only NFL insider Adam Kaplan. Inside the Birds podcast, like, subscribe, wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget the Inside the Birds YouTube channel and Inside the Birds exclusive content on Patreon. Eagles, Ravens tonight. Adam, how you doing today?
Josh, I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this and we'll get into kind of what and how NFL teams evaluate preseason games. But it's good. We have a game. The weather's going to be fine. It might rain the second half. The lightning is not going to happen. It happened earlier. I've been checking on the weather report. I'm kind of obsessed with weather. People who listen to our show kind of know this. It's going to be fine. People are overreacting, and we'll see what happens to the game. But, yeah, look, we've got the first of 3 preseason games for the Eagles, and it's important for coaches, which we'll discuss later.
Yeah, people overreacting in Philadelphia. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Before we get to that, speaking of overreacting, there has been some interesting reaction to that Tim McManus ESPN.com piece earlier this week. And Adam, I got to preface it by saying I was reading the piece and all I kept thinking of is, well, if people have been listening to the Inside the Birds podcast for the last several months, they would know some of this information already.
Yeah, so I thought the piece was good. I thought Tim, who's a friend who I used to work with at ESPN, and Jeremy Fowler, who I know, I saw Jeremy in L.A. last week. I thought they did a good job. Yeah, so what they did is where we told people on Patreon especially there was a disconnect between Sirianni and Hurts. They put context, because they were writing. They did a good job of sourcing it, and a piece like this cannot get done in 1 week. You need time to get people on the phone. They talk. What I found interesting is instead of saying they talked to a source, they said team sources a lot. And when I write pieces like this, I would not call it a hit piece, by the way. They're just telling the truth about what happened. I typically won't say team source. I've literally put down a piece on a team, and all my sourcing came from a club. I would not let anyone know that. I'm good at trying to hide who I speak with, but that's their deal. They can do whatever they want. But overall, I thought it was a really good piece. It gave context to the issues where you got the stubbornness of Sirianni, which we knew about, but it gave way better, deeper context. They did a good job on that, and what Hurts won, and what they didn't really talk about is what we outlined on Inside the Birds very well. Hurts did not play well last season. I get it; he wanted more responsibility. That's fine, but from the people who work with us at Inside the Birds, like Jason Avant, Quentin Michael, Greg Cosell, and Clay Harbor, and others, and John DiFilippo, by the way, the former Eagles quarterbacks coach, they all seem to agree in one way or another. Hurts didn't see the field really well. That's not a coaching issue. That's when the guy's open, the guy's got to get the football. That can't be defended like the tape shows this. But I also think that Hurts, and this is the second time that a piece has been written where clearly from Hurts' camp they wanted out there that he wanted more responsibility and didn't get it.
So you mentioned about the coaches. So going into tonight's game, Adam, talk to me about what do coaches look for in the preseason? Because you know how fans are. They're always looking for their favorite players. They're always looking for things like that. But what do coaches look for in a game like this?
Yeah, coaches don't care about that. What they want is they want tape. Because the Eagles don't hit in practice. By my estimation, the only 2 times over Sirianni's 4 years that they've hit, and I don't know why they've done this in the open practice in the link. The third-team offense and third-team defense went live, although the quarterback can't get hit in that. They went live for about 5 minutes. I don't know. Maybe they're doing it for the fans. I never really asked why they were doing it. I assume that's what it was for. I just found it odd that at the link that they're going to hit with the third team. But so basically, this is the real time here that the quarterback can get hit. Yes, it's a real game, and this is important. You want to see Kenny Pickett under pressure. He has an okay camp. Tanner McKee's had a nice camp. You want to see how these quarterbacks handle pressure. You want to see how these backup receivers will get into that. Coaches have told me for years they need to get tape when it really matters. And these preseason games are very important for the back-end players, Josh. Starters, it really doesn't matter. If they play tonight, they're going to play briefly anyway. It's about the backups. Always has been and always will be.
You mentioned about the backups. Let's talk about some of those backups. Let's start with the quarterbacks, Adam. Kenny Pickett. Eagles acquired him this offseason, but we also know, based on you and Jeff's reporting, Adam, on the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, this organization does like Tanner McKee. So what are you looking for from those 2 quarterbacks?
This is important for both of them. Pickett's the clearly the 2. I know people are going crazy for Tanner McKee getting a little bit of work with the 2s. In fact, I know the Steelers have seen this. They know what's out there. You know, I know some people with the Steelers, and they found it curious. And I kind of let people know that this is just giving. It's really hard, Josh, with a 13 quarterback. If you're not giving work with the 2s, he's just going to work with guys who probably won't be on the football team. Most of them won't be. I just don't think it's very fair because McKee, based mostly on his preseason training camp, we were told last year was not great. But the games are really good for him, and that got him solidified a roster spot. You'd like to see him work with the 2s. Let's with a Johnny Wilson, with a Britton Covey, with a John Ross, with an Anais Smith. I think that's important. I'd like to see him get work with that because you never know what would happen. As we learned the year that Koy Detmer got hurt, and the Eagles went to A.J. Feely, and that tape was really good. That tape got the Eagles, wound up getting the Eagles a second-round pick, if you remember, from the Dolphins, which shocked the world. You never know.
Hey, Adam, it's Nick. I want to touch on the backfield a little bit here. I know Saquon's been the talk of the offseason, right? Kenny Gainwell's still here. But what can people expect about regarding Will Shipley?
Yeah, this is really big for Will Shipley. As we've outlined on Inside the Birds, Shipley's way more explosive than Gainwell. Gainwell's a better pass protector. He's the experienced back. This is a big year for Gainwell because Stephon Eber's rookie deal. But in the end, Nick, these 3 games for Will Shipley are very important because, yes, he's going to make the team. He's going to be the third back. But there could be a package of plays in season where they go, you know what, let's get Barkley off the field. Let's get him a break. We know what Gainwell is. But in a normal down and distance, let's say it's on a base down, first or second down, let's see what Shipley can do. But, pass protection in the last week or so has got to be better. This is a wonderful opportunity against a really good defense. I get it. Baltimore's probably not going to play their starters, but they have pretty good backups, and I'm interested to see how he handles this. This is pretty big for him and a guy like Ty Davis-Price and the other backup running backs, but especially for Will Shipley, who's going to be on the football team.
John, it's the Adam Kaplan Football and Forward, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, at Kaplan NFL on Twitter. I got too excited to talk about Johnny Wilson with you, Adam Kaplan. Yeah. Johnny Wilson and Anais Smith, they were both drafted by this team. They were rookies coming in here. So how do you delineate between 2 guys who have been drafted versus a veteran like John Ross, who are all competing for roster spots?
Yeah, and they're all in the same boat because they're backups. And Britton Covey's going to be their punt returner. He's going to make the team. he's had such a good camp, Britton Covey. It's been really a 2-week run for him where he's just been terrific. They could certainly take a broader look at him. We'll see if they dress him tonight. I don't even know if he needs the work, because they kind of know how kind of a role he's going to have. For the first time in his 3 years, Josh, he's actually shown he'll be a part of the offensive game plan. It's really for me for Johnny Wilson. Now, I know Johnny Wilson right now it would be the top guy for the number 3 role, but here's the thing: he's not been tackled. He's not going against another defense. Now, I know Tuesday they'll practice with the Patriots in Foxborough, and look, that's what they call a mini game. That's the way coaches look at it. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday's Football at 4. But Josh, this is really big for these backups. Joseph Ngata, Jacob Harris, I know the Eagles are interested in. Austin Watkins, I know a lot of fans were hot and bothered about this offseason. He's had a quiet training camp. This is where a guy could shine. You know, Joseph Ngata, who had a very good training camp preseason last year, he didn't wind up making it, but he was on their practice squad the entire season. This guy's he just doesn't get separation, but overall, these backups, Josh, there are a lot of backup jobs, quite frankly, open in terms of the rotation.
Hey, Adam, when it comes to tight end, I know Kellen Moore likes to use 2 tight ends at times. Dallas Goedert's also missed time throughout his career. Well, what can we expect behind Dallas Goedert and some of those guys like Grant Calcaterra?
Yeah, he will use the tight end, especially like last year with the Chargers. Kellen Moore's background is 11 personnel, 1 tight end, 3 receivers, 1 back. Last year he played more 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, and 1 back because of the injuries. They had massive injury issues with the Chargers. So Gerald Everett did a little bit better. Their tight ends were used more than they probably planned on it. Grant Calcaterra has had the best offseason of his 3-year career. This is his 3rd year of a 4-year rookie deal. The thing for him is he's got to show he can block. I know that the Eagles have a lot of tight ends on their roster. They actually have 7. They claim Amani Rogers, who's a former college quarterback at Ohio University. He's a tight end who the Commanders really love, but he tore his ACL last year, so he's kind of working his way back. It's going to be big for C.J. Uzomah, who's not had a great camp. Albert Okwuegbunam. E.J. Jenkins is a converted receiver who's a big dude. It's really it's not so much about Grant Calcaterra, Nick. It's about those other guys that I mentioned.
Adam, when you think about other guys, offensive line, I am so curious to see what the plan is long term with 2 specific guys, Mekhi Becton and Trevor Keegan, 2 guys coming into this team with 2 very different backgrounds, circumstances, but they both could legitimately be on this team when the season starts.
Yeah, and I think when you look at that situation, guys, Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, has a history of keeping his drafted players. He rarely cuts them prior to their first year. So Keegan's only a left guard. That's all, I believe, where he's lined up. Darian Kennard. I don't know if Becton's going to play tonight. Becton has competed for the right guard job, and as well as being a top backup offensive lineman, because he's coming back from a little something. And Tyler Steen's coming back with an ankle injury. But yeah, it's definitely big for guys like that. Dylan McMahon, who should play a lot tonight at center. Matt Hennessy has not had a great camp. He's got to get some work. And remember the name Aneem Dankwa, an undrafted free agent out of Howard, who's played a lot more right tackle than left in training camp. But watch him tonight.
Adam, I want to switch over to the defense and talk about the interior defensive line. Guys like Moro Ojomo, Thomas Booker, Gabe Hall. The Eagles, there's names there now that you really haven't heard of as much because there's not as much depth with Fletcher Cox retiring. What can we expect out of those type of guys?
Yeah, and here's the thing, Nick. When you look at the situation, this is, again, about the backups. It's about Thomas Booker, Marlon Tuipulotu. Moro Ojomo, boy, he's had a really good training camp. He'll be their 3rd tackle. He'll back up Milton Williams and Jalen Carter. Tuipulotu, Thomas Booker, who's coming on. And then Gabe Hall is kind of my sleeper at training camp, who needs to get a better shot here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Gabe Hall can do, number 96, who they're paying a lot as an undrafted free agent. They guaranteed a lot of money. This is a guy that they're very high on. He's 6'6", guys, an undrafted free agent out of Baylor.
Adam, we heard Vic Fangio talk about earlier that he does not include the defensive ends in the defensive line lineups. Let's talk about a couple of those ends. Nolan Smith, a guy that Darius Slay has a lot of high expectations coming into this year. Jalix Hunt, their Eagles draft pick, who is a developmental project. Tell us about what your expectations are for Smith and Hunt.
Hunt's really, that's a guy that I want to watch tonight when you talk about the edge rush group. I am so interested because you can't teach size. He's really come on here. He's very underrated because he's a project. We get that, but man, this guy's got length. He's talented. He's new to the position. Want to watch him. Nolan Smith has had a very good training camp. We're looking forward to seeing what he does tonight. Yeah, this is big for the edge rush group because without Fletcher Cox, without Hassan Reddick, they've got to find other ways to rush the passer. And these type of games are big for those guys.
Looking at the inside linebacking position, Adam, Jeremiah Trotter, a name everyone's excited about because, his dad played here. Ben Van Sumeren, another name to look at. What are your expectations with those guys who are kind of, on the back end of the depth chart?
The big thing here at the inside backer position, the Eagles will start two of them, is can they get any consistent play? I mean, you got Trott Jr., who's been a really good story lately, who has been one of the most consistent backers. None of them cover well, by the way. Burks won't play. He's out with the same knee he got hurt early in the first day of training camp. Nakobe Dean's got to play better. He's one of the culprits in coverage. We know he could play the run. Ben Van Sumeren is one of the best athletes they have at linebacker, but he's very raw. Someone's got to break out here at this backup group, guys. We know that Bond and White are almost certain to start week one. It's not a lock. It's not in pen yet. It's kind of in pencil for the Green Bay game, but they got to get better. They got to get better in coverage, guys. In fact, Jeff and I were talking off the air last night. We're very interested to see who their linebackers will be this season in passing situations because right now we just don't know. We have not seen these guys cover well enough in coverage.
Speaking of coverage, Adam, the secondary. Quinyon Mitchell, I know he was drafted to be an outside corner, but he's getting work at the inside corner spot. Do we see him at all tonight?
Don't know what their plan is to play him tonight. I know that the belief is some starters will play. I don't know if they need to see him play on the outside right now. At some point they do. But whenever he plays in the preseason, which he will do at some point, whether it's tonight or the next game against New England, at some point, they got to see him play on the outside because that's his long-term position. That's just the way that they're going to do it, and he's just got to show that he can handle playing a little bit more man coverage. He didn't play really a lot of man in college. He's more of an off-zone corner, which is, by the way, the match carry deliver system. That's a Fangio system where you carry a guy to a certain landmark and you hand it off to somebody else. He's really good at that. That's why they drafted him in the first round.
Adam, staying in the secondary and looking at the safety position, James Bradbury, they tried him out at safety. Andre Sam, I know, is getting some run there too. They're thin at the safety position, so this is an important game for those players, especially a guy like James Bradbury, correct?
Oh, no question about it, Nick. When you look at this situation, Bradbury is starting to come on a little bit at safety, and if he can get some good tape here, I'm not saying they'll be able to trade him, but at least if some team's really desperate and loses players at safety, this is what we call a showcase game for him. Bradbury, you mentioned Andre Sam. Somebody's got to emerge of this backup safety group. We know that Max has been lining up at safety, no longer at slot corner because they just don't have the depth at safety. And Tristan McCullum, who was with their practice squad last season, his brother Zion plays for the Bucs. So, yeah, when you watch tonight, these are the guys to keep an eye on.
Adam, before we let you go, with the new kickoff return rules, how is that going to impact some of the decisions? Because it seems like there's multiple guys in this team who could be kickoff return guys.
Yeah, Isaiah Rodgers right now, who's their starting right corner, he figures to have a very good chance to be a kickoff returner. Now, they have dual returners. You'll see the landing zone tonight, which is the term. I kind of have a pretty good idea of the kickoffs because I actually was at the NFL's demonstration at the owners' meeting. So watch tonight how the Eagles handle this. The kickoff returners in camp have been Shipley, Gainwell, Ty Davis-Price, Isaiah Rodgers, and DeJean could do it, but obviously he can't now because he's hurt. But he may wind up doing it this season. Keep an eye on that and how the Eagles handle it. I know some teams I spoke with said they're not going to show their hand. I'm very interested to see what Michael Clay and Tyler Brown do who handle their special teams.
He's Adam Kaplan at Kaplan NFL on the Twitter X platform. Don't forget the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Get the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, download it, share it with your friends. Don't forget Inside the Birds YouTube channel and the Patreon, where Inside the Birds gives you all the inside information you can't get anywhere else. Great stuff today, Adam. Enjoy the game tonight.
Guys, thank you.
He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN. We covered a lot of ground there with Adam Kaplan, Nick, but I want to ask from you a couple questions here. You know, who did we name? Are you keeping an eye on tonight?
I'm not going to lie. I'm fascinated by the James Bradberry situation, right? I mean, they come into camp with all these young corners. They have a lot of depth there, right? And they just kind of stick Bradberry out there at safety to see if he can play the position, right? So I'm fascinated by the Bradberry situation in the secondary because they have so much talent in that space of their team, right? So, I mean, at safety, they're a little thin, but at corner, they have so many. They just kind of kick Bradberry out. So I'm curious to see how he finagles playing at that position.
The guy that I am most curious about tonight, I mentioned the wide receivers because the Eagles are in a very weird situation because they don't have a natural slot receiver.
No.
Ainias Williams and John Wilson are two completely different type of athletes.
Yep.
But they're both in the conversation. John Ross, different than those other two guys.
Speedster.
Paris Campbell, he's expected to get a look, but is he really the best guy? I don't know. So I want to see, can any of these guys separate themselves? And about the kickoff return, don't forget, with the new rules, the kickoff and punt return is more valuable now than it used to be.
Yeah.
So you're going to need game breakers back there. And I'm not convinced Britton Covey is the answer. There might be another guy on this roster who might take that job from him.
Yeah, but he was really good as a punt returner. So I want him back there. Do you think he's going to get cut? I don't think he's going to get cut. I think Covey makes the roster.
I think
Adam said it. He's looked good the past couple weeks.
He's looked good, but
you don't think he makes the roster because of the kickoff rules? I think he makes it because he's good at punt returning. I think that's why he would make it.
I think that if someone might try to steal his job. That's what I'm saying.
No, I think Covey makes this team. I can't see because you have to remember, like last year, he was ranked one of the best returners in football, especially on the punt return. Like he averaged one of the top, averages, I guess you could say, in returning punts. So I wouldn't want to get rid of Britton Covey. I wouldn't cut him. They don't have a lot of depth at receiver anyway after him, so you might as well keep him on the roster if he can make an explosive play happen on the punt returns.
I would like to see him get more reps in the slot. A slot receiver then.
He was getting some, when I went to the open practice, he was getting some run in the slot.
Because the thing is that he is physically built like your Wes Welkers, your Julian Edelmans physically. So if and the reason I bring that up is because who is a Wes Welker Julian Edelman prototype than Cole Beasley?
Yeah.
And Cole Beasley had his best years with what team?
Dallas.
And who was coaching him then?
Was it Jason Garrett? Right?
Kellen Moore,
right.
And he was the offensive coordinator here now?
It's Kellen Moore.
So, in theory,
Who's got to make the team then?
I think Britton Covey needs to get more run in the slot than a kick and punt return because I think his value might be there more than kick and punt return.
Yeah, I maybe you're probably right. You just said he might not make the team.
Well, no, I said that his job as the kick and punt returner is in jeopardy. Because I think that there's a lot of guys, Ainias Williams, Will Shipley.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of guys on this team who could theoretically do that job.
But he's had a good camp. That's the thing. He's had a really good camp, and Adam even expressed that. Like he's been really good over the past.
So did Paul
weeks.
Turner 8 years ago.
Yeah, but Britton Covey has been with this team for a couple of years as well. Like he's actually been in big games, caught punts in regular season football. So, he's ranked high as a punt returner.
I like Britton Covey. I don't hate him like Christian Pache. Okay, I mean I'm not hating the guy. I'm just saying that his best role with this team might not be the role he's been given you.
Okay, so maybe he gets an expanded role. Now, this also makes me think with where they're at wide receiver, right? Like, we've seen Howie Roseman go out and make a trade during the preseason before and during training camp. Would I be shocked if that happens? Absolutely not. They could go and upgrade at that position. They have draft capital to do it. So would that shock me? No, because it looks like a gigantic hole in that slot. But you also remember, Dallas Goedert is a part of this team. You have Saquon Barkley. You can utilize him in the pass game as well. So they might not be valuing that third wide receiver spot as much because of all of the other weapons they do have, like Saquon, like Dallas Goedert. Remember, it took forever to get Dallas Goedert involved last year. So we'll see how... different coordinator. So we'll see how Kellen Moore utilizes that position, but you might see more tight ends. Like we talked about, Grant Calcaterra, they could utilize more. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Listen, in the Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson 3 years, tight ends in total averaged about 4 touchdowns per year for the Eagles. In the Kellen Moore offenses, they averaged almost 8 touchdowns per year. So that should give you an idea. Kellen Moore targets the tight end way more than the Sirianni Steichen system.
Which is why you could see maybe Britton Covey get some run in that third spot, right? Like maybe that's how he wants to utilize him. Spot plays or something like that.
Or does the second tight end get more?
Calcaterra, yeah.
Calcaterra, we know what kind of athlete he is. And don't forget, Grant Calcaterra, Oklahoma, same time some other quarterback was there, Jalen Hurts.
Hey, you might.
I'm just saying.
You're saying.
Just saying. He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill. 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up next, how about some nuggets?
Ooh.
Nick Earnshaw, live in the flesh in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. I'm virtually here. He is here in person. I could slap him if I wanted to, but I won't. He'll give us nuggets coming up next on 97.3 ESPN.
We have the...
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it. Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We're sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill on a Happy Hour Friday edition of the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get back to the text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973. But right now, it's time for some nuggets from Nick Earnshaw live here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studio.
What's going on, Josh? I'm here. I'm not virtual today. I've been here for the past, 2.5 hours?
Yeah, you're still here. You didn't run away.
I didn't run away. I did not. But I got to get started with our question of the day. Should Nick Foles' number be retired? And I wanted to continue the conversation from yesterday's Nuggets, because I feel like we got a little rushed at the end because we were running out of time. But, Josh, there is no way, shape, or form that Nick Foles' number should not be retired. It has to be. It has to be. When you are the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles to win the first Super Bowl in franchise history, your number deserves to be retired. And that is nugget number one for me. And I'll also preface it with this, and this is another reason, a few other reasons why Nick Foles' number should also be retired on his retirement night this year against the Falcons. First of all, he's the first backup quarterback since 2001 to beat to win the Super Bowl just like Tom Brady did in 2001. He also leads the team in team history in passer rating. He's third in completion percentage, and he's top 10 in yards and touchdowns. So the numbers are kind of there, Josh, for the most part, because I know he didn't play enough for the Eagles. He wasn't a starter forever. It doesn't matter. I don't care if he was a backup. Like we talked about, guys that embodied Philadelphia, Foles is on your list, he's on my list, and he's probably on everyone else's list. That's why the number deserves deserves to be retired. He made a significant impact on the city, on the franchise. He's got to have that number go up into the rafters and never should be worn again. Because every time you think of number 9 on the Eagles, it would be Nick Foles. It's not going to change, Josh.
All right, so a couple things here. First of all, I appreciate your irrational passion.
What's irrational about it? I just laid out all the factual information for you.
First of all, you even said yourself just now that he didn't play that many years.
It doesn't matter.
But it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
It does matter.
Roy Halladay had his number retired by the Philadelphia Phillies.
This isn't baseball.
I'm just saying.
Numbers get retired in baseball all the time.
He did not play here long enough, if you think about it, right? Like, according to your logic, he didn't play here long enough to have his number retired.
Baseball is different than football.
Why? Why is it different?
Because you can't retire all the numbers because you're going to run out of numbers, first of all. So you have to be, all right, this person is someone we're going to retire their number for XYZ reason.
Important, like they're an important part of your history. And Nick Foles is.
Second of all, having the best passer rating in franchise history is like the equivalent of having the best WAR in baseball history. It's one of those stats that's like, what do you do with it?
I'm just saying, well, it's an important stat. Wins above replacement's important. Passer rating's important for a quarterback. You got to be able to pass football, Josh.
We have already proven through time that the wins above replacement stat is very, very odd. Okay,
I'm not disagreeing with you.
There's some great all time players who all have very good WARs, and it's like, oh, am I supposed to say all of a sudden that Hank Aaron is a bad baseball player?
Don't tell my co-host that. Do not tell my co-host on the shift that. I mean, he loves WAR. He's an analytic guy.
I'll come for him. I ain't scared of him.
Yeah, you better.
I'm not afraid of him. I'm not afraid of you, for goodness sake. Why am I afraid of him?
You should be afraid of me in this conversation because you're dead wrong. Nick Foles needs a number retired.
I think you're way too emotional about this.
This is not emotional.
I think that you're hanging on basically one game, one moment.
One game. It's not one game.
It was one game.
He had that great year where he threw 27 touchdowns. Remember that
great year.
He had that great year. He also threw 7 touchdowns in one game for the Eagles. He also won the freaking Super Bowl, Josh.
Yeah, but oh my goodness. All right. First of all, again, I said this yesterday. People are quick to forget that Nick Foles was not great the entire run.
He was great in the championship game.
He was
great in the Super Bowl.
In the one game. The
championship game, he wasn't great?
He was good.
He was great. They won 38-7.
The Eagles' defense just decimated.
How'd they play in the Super Bowl? How'd they play in the Super Bowl?
But that's the point. Teams win championships, not individuals.
I'm not saying
every game is a different part of the journey, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and give Nick Foles more credit than anybody else just because he won the Super Bowl MVP. You want to go through the list of guys Super Bowl MVP who are not in the Hall of Fame? We could do that.
It's not about being in the Hall of Fame. He is an important
retiring your number.
If you saw someone else wearing the number 9, you saw a backup quarterback, Tanner McKee, wearing number 9. I mean, that's going to make you feel a type of way. He shouldn't be wearing that. Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. This guy brought Philadelphia the first championship. So you're telling me backup wearing number 9?
So you're telling me a statue isn't enough?
No, it's not enough. He deserves to have his number retired. No quarterback
deserves.
Yes. He threw 971 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception during that playoff run. Okay, he was pretty efficient. The 5th most passing yards in a Super Bowl in Super Bowl history. Okay, he went toe to toe with Tom Brady, brought you your first championship in franchise history. He was the quarterback when everybody counted him out.
If you're giving him his number retired, you got to retire Brandon Graham's number 2.
I agree. I said that yesterday.
Because
I said
Brandon
Graham
is just as important
to
that Super Bowl as Nick Foles. Because if he doesn't get that strip sack, they don't stop the Patriots from scoring again, and who knows how that game ends.
I am not disagreeing with you. I think he should get his number retired too. He was an integral part too.
This is my bargain. That's my bargain.
Okay, so if Nick Foles gets his number retired, Brandon Graham has to too.
It has to.
Okay, I don't disagree with that.
That's the requirement.
But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
Yes, it did. Because
why?
Because if you are saying that game is the reason, that Super Bowl game is the reason.
And we know, but quarterback is the most important position in probably all of sports. And Nick Foles went toe-to-toe with the best.
A quarterback is only as good as the offensive line in front of him and the receivers catching.
You stop. No.
It's true.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
So why didn't Dan Marino?
He didn't have Jason Peters. Jason Peters was hurt. They were banged up. Vaitai was his left tackle that year.
Well, first of all, Vaitai had the season of his life that year, okay? He had a
They
Hall
were
of Famer,
battling
Jason
injury.
Kelce, in front of him. He had Lane Johnson, a future Hall of Famer, in front of him. Brandon Brooks was an all-pro right guard. Wisniewski was one of the most underrated guards that
Darren
year.
Sproles was hurt. I'm just saying, they had a running back by committee. Listen, everything went right for the Eagles that year. But to have a backup quarterback come in and take over and still win the Super Bowl.
But you say yourself, everything went right that year.
It did. That's fine. And it went right with the quarterback. No one expected Nick Foles to go toe-to-toe with
Zach
Tom
Ertz had
Brady.
100 receiving yards in the game.
Who threw him the ball?
Who caught the ball?
I'm just saying, who threw it to him? The pass had to get there. Still got to throw it.
Listen, we don't call Joe Montana's pass to Dallas Clark the what? The quarterback. We call it the catch. Why? Because he made an amazing catch in the end zone.
How are you going to have someone in your top 10 list that embodied Philadelphia, that were born to play here, not have him retire his number? I just don't understand.
I don't see John Crook's number retired.
It's not. Oh, no.
Let's go through the list here. Let's go through all the names here.
Oh, my goodness.
Let me see here.
This is brutal. How could you not retire?
Is Jeremiah Trotter's number retired?
You think of number 9 in Philadelphia Eagles history, you're only going to think about Nick Foles. It's the right thing to do.
That's
he
fine.
earned it.
He earned it. Then retire Brandon Graham's number.
That's fine with me.
I want it done the same day.
No. Stop. Brandon Graham still has a year to play. I think they should retire when Nick Foles announces his retirement on that Monday night. I think he should be retired then. That's when it should be.
He should come back for the 10-year anniversary.
No.
10-year anniversary of the Super Bowl. He comes back. He has the trophy in his hand. They can retire his number then.
So you're okay with some backup during training camp wearing number 9?
I didn't say that.
So why should everyone? Who else would you give number 9 to?
I didn't say I was giving number 9 to everybody else.
So here's your thinking that you're not going to. No one's going to wear number 9 ever again, but you're not going to retire it.
I didn't say that either.
Then what are you saying?
I'm saying that if we're giving out the retiring number for the reasons that you gave, there are other people who have to be considered as well.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Brandon Graham should probably have his number retired. Jason Kelce, number probably should be retired. Fletcher Cox. I'm with you. But when you're the quarterback, and he was a backup quarterback that led you to a Super Bowl. It's a fantastic story. No one has
happened before, by the way.
Oh, that's fine. It's not since 2001, since Tom Brady, the guy he beat in the Super Bowl to win it. No one has worn number 9 since Nick Foles left here. So if you're just going to keep it on the shelf anyway, retire it. Retire his number. No one's going to wear it. Not one Eagles fan is going. Not only number 9 jerseys you will see from now until the end of time will be number 9 Nick Foles jerseys. You're not going to see anyone else wearing a number 9 for the Eagles. And I don't think players would want to wear number 9 because he was so important to this team's history. He won the first Super Bowl as the starting quarterback and went toe-to-toe with the GOAT. I don't know how you can't retire him. He's an important part of the franchise's history. No one should wear that number ever again.
We've wasted way too much time on this subject. He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Nick. We got more nuggets coming up on the other side. We're going to hit a timeout because Nick Earnshaw needs to catch his breath. He needs to calm down.
You're getting me fired up
He needs to drink some water.
Gosh.
He needs to put an ice cube and crunch on it in his mouth just to calm down over there here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. Hanging out with you. Don't forget Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad coming up in about 17 minutes. Now I'll get to the Phillies as they continue their road trip in Arizona. They won last night, 3 straight games. We'll get Bob Wankel's perspective coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Along with Nick Earnshaw, I'm Josh Hennig, filling for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Hello, Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Headache, filling in for Mike Gill. 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. All right, Nick, you got some more nuggets that have nothing to do with Nick Foles, so let's get into that. Nick Earnshaw's Nuggets every day in the 4 o'clock hour, right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, so my second nugget, we're off the Nick Foles. I calmed down during the commercial break there.
Yep.
I took a few breaths. I got myself composed, Josh.
Good job. Proud of you.
You've got my blood pressure like fired up today, by the way. Twice today. You've done it.
That's fine.
All right. Moving along to nugget number 2. Now, I don't know if you saw this, Josh. I don't know if our listeners saw this on social media yesterday. CeeDee Lamb, Cowboys wide receiver, who
I did see this.
Oh, this is fantastic. So he's trying to get a new contract, right? And Jerry Jones, he's playing hardball. We know how Jerry is. He's a pain in the you-know-what.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
So yesterday, there was a tweet that CeeDee Lamb put out after Jerry Jones met with the media. One of the reporters put out a quote from Jerry Jones and a picture that said, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones on contract talks with CeeDee Lamb. Quote, I don't have any urgency to get it done, end quote. And CeeDee Lamb quote tweeted that and tweeted out LOL, period. So things seem to be going pretty well in Dallas right now. Michael Parsons also retweeted this post, and also CeeDee Lamb changed his not his profile pic, his background picture of his profile, his Twitter header, I should say, and he took out the Cowboys in his bio. So things are not looking too great in Dallas right now, and Jerry Jones, it's of his own making, Josh.
So a couple things here. One, you're right. Jerry Jones has made this disaster pretty much all by himself. Mm-hmm. This organization's done a great job at drafting players, but they've done a great job at keeping their players. And the fact, remember, Jerry Jones last year made fun of the Eagles and said, we're trying to, we don't operate that way, basically saying, the Eagles re-sign their players is, a dumb way to do things. Well, Eagles looking pretty smart right now. Jerry Jones, not so much. The other part I don't understand is this organization knows that they can't keep Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons at the money they want and build a team, right? So why are you hanging on to all three? Like, if you're not going to give CeeDee Lamb the money, trade him. You know what I mean? Like, move on. Let him go.
Get some assets for him.
Yeah.
He's one of the best receivers in football.
I mean, they did it with Amari Cooper years ago. Remember, they traded Amari Cooper because they didn't want to give him any more money. Why are you hanging on to CeeDee Lamb and you're not getting anything out of him?
It's so funny because they're going to pay Dak Prescott and he's going to have nobody to throw to. He's not going to have anybody to throw to at that point. This is just fantastic. And by the way, future Eagle Micah Parsons, we all know he wants to be a Philadelphia Eagle down the line, and you know how he's going to pay him. How he's going to pay for him.
The problem with Micah is Micah said that he wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL.
It's fine.
I don't know if the Eagles I don't think the Eagles want to do that.
Give it to him. Give it to him, Josh. You already got one Penn Stater here. You got it from another division rival. Why not bring another one in? I'm just saying, Josh. I think it would be fantastic. Take a Cowboy like Micah Parsons on the defensive side. You always want pass rushers. We know the Eagles love pass rushers. Why not? Why not?
All right, what else you got for me?
All right. Final nugget of the day. Nugget number 3, and I'm close on time here, but I wanted to talk about Mookie Betts. He was on the Philly Show podcast, Jim Salisbury, Ruben Amaro, and Todd Zalecki.
Okay.
And they were talking about, they had Mookie Betts on. They were talking about Ruben Amaro wanted Mookie Betts to become a Philadelphia Philly, Josh. How about this? Like, they wanted to try and get him back when Ruben Amaro was a GM, but it just obviously did not happen. Your thoughts? Do you think Mookie Betts could have been on your list at some point as a guy who was born to play in Philadelphia?
I don't know if I'll go that far, but I will say that the story is interesting for this one reason. Ruben Amaro was here before the Red Sox won the 2018 World Series. Do the Red Sox win that World Series if Mookie is not on that team?
Absolutely not.
So you could have literally changed history as we know it if that trade was made. I think it's interesting also that before Ruben Amaro was fired by the organization really fell apart.
Yeah.
And Ruben Amaro was very much hated. Does Mookie Betts have the career that he's had if he was in Philadelphia?
I don't know. Because it was during a time where they weren't great, right?
Exactly.
Like, it was like, I don't know how much of a difference would it make. There was some bad Phillies teams during that 10-year stretch from like 2011 to 2022.
Nick Earnshaw's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a happy hour Friday. Yes, I see you, Josh from KMA. We'll get to your happy hour Friday recommendations in the next hour. But coming up next, Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad. We got to talk some Phillies. Nick Earnshaw. They've won 3 straight games on the road. There were people who were saying this team was going to be the playoffs last week. Now they're beating the Dodgers. They're beating the Diamondbacks. Could they salvage this road trip? Well, that's Bob Wankel coming up next here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Josh Hennig and Nick Earnshaw filling in for Mike Gill on a happy hour Friday here on 97.3 ESPN at the 5 o'clock hour, being brought to you by Key Acura of Atlantic City. For a great car buying experience, go see Rocco and the Key Acura of Atlantic City team on Tilton Road in Egg Harbor Township. Your small but friendly dealer online at KeyAcuraofAtlanticCity.com. Well, we start this Phillies conversation with Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad with some news. Austin Hayes goes to the injured list. That hamstring apparently is serious enough for him to miss time. But I got to admit, Bob, when I saw that he was going to the injured list, I didn't think Calvin Stevenson was going to be the guy coming up. So, Bob Wankel, who the bleep is Cal Stevenson?
Yeah, he's a guy that's coming up at a time where he's swinging the bat pretty well. He's on a nice little 30-game run here. He gives you a little bit more of a depth option. I wouldn't expect to see him out there running around starting games or anything like that. But, I mean, look, this is an injury that when it happened the other night in Los Angeles to Austin Hayes, you thought, like this could be a month. This could be 6 weeks. This could be a while. And the initial indication is that you're really looking at probably something more along the lines of what they went through with Brandon Marsh, where this is going to be a 2-week injury. You hope to get this guy back sometime before the end of the month and see where it goes. All of that being said, and I hate to be this guy, but what was he really doing for you while he was here? So I don't know how much they're going to feel that loss. I really don't. That comes from a guy who's been on this show twice a week for 4 months now, talking about how I don't really buy into Johan Rojas' offense. But I just think that the Phillies outfield mix is in center and left so unsettled and generally unproductive that one guy goes out, another guy comes in, and we'll be all right.
Well, I will say this about Austin Hayes. He had some productive games for you, and he's certainly been a major upgrade over the Bleck that was Whit Merrifield and Christian Pache. I don't remember Christian Pache or Whit Merrifield having a ton of great production.
No, I mean, look, it's been an upgrade, but he's a guy that I don't think – I think the issue is twofold. One is that he is a platoon piece, and he's been sold as this market upgrade. And the reason why it's a market upgrade is because of the two guys that you just mentioned who weren't doing anything. Yeah, it's a significant upgrade over Whit Merrifield. That's awesome, but I think he's got some holes in his game, and the Phillies are going to press him on you and say, this is an everyday left fielder, and I sure as heck don't see that, but – hey, they're playing better lately. I actually am a little surprised that this is my tone at the start of this conversation, but I really say that to mean it. I don't know how much that injury is really going to hurt them in the short term.
Bob, I want to talk about JT Realmuto a little bit as well. He comes back off the injury. He struggled a little bit his last 15 games. He's batting under 200, but had a big home run last night, right? And Rob Thompson was talking about the importance of him after the game yesterday. For JT Realmuto, he reached 10 years of service time. What does it mean for him to get days off here and there? And I know he's reaching a level now where he's getting a little bit older, and that's something you're going to have to watch now.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal, and it does make you wonder if they get into a competitive landscape here down the stretch, these last 48 games or so, are they going to be able to turn to Garrett Stubbs with confidence? JT has caught a ton of games and a ton of innings, and he's creeping into his mid-30s, and his bat speed right now looks a little bit behind. Now, last night, the end of the game, 2 extra base hits, obviously the homer. It had been a while. You hope that gets him going, but I think that there's a difference between being healthy enough to play and then playing at the level you're capable of. And I think in the case of JT Realmuto, he's healthy enough to play, but the Phillies have to hope that this is a process where he's working his way back and that you're still going to see the best of JT Realmuto in 2024 here as you approach the end of August and into September, because it has been a rough go for him since he's come back. Everything looks slow. He's getting beat with fastballs, especially up in the zone. And so you hope here that he's getting healthier and it turns up. To your question, I think it's very important to give him proper rest. And I know that annoys fans. And I know you see some of these lineups and you see Garrett Stubbs and people kind of roll their eyes, but I think you take that short-term loss day to day in order to try to preserve him and get him right later on.
At some point, could you see the Phillies making that decision of having 3 catchers on the roster going down the stretch, right? Even bringing Rafael Marchand up for the playoffs. Is that like something that they could consider going down the line?
Yeah, perhaps, and not even so much for the postseason, but the way I look at it is you get into September, and if you want to take the foot off the gas a little bit and you want to give JT Realmuto extra days, do you really want to turn to Garrett Stubbs 2-3 times a week in that scenario? And I think the answer privately is probably not. So if they want to do that, I think that there's a real good possibility that you have not seen Rafael Marchand for the last time up here in Philadelphia this season.
Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad and the Crossed Up Podcast, RedOctoberPhilly.com, joining us here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig and Nick Earnshaw filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. You know, speaking of the offense, I wanted to ask you, Bob, you know, we were talking earlier about, I will never get out of my mind when Dave Dombrowski said a couple of years ago that, you know, we are supposed to have, I'm not quoting him verbatim, obviously, but he basically implied that, you know, we built this team with the idea that our offense is going to overcome our problems, right? You know, they have invested basically what is almost $1 billion in several players. And so it's like, when you look around this team, I don't mind when a guy has a bad day here or there, Bob, because I know that the team was built for other guys to pick them up. But there's gotta be something to be said for the fact that you can't expect 3 or 4 guys to do it every night for you. The other guys gotta step up at some point. So what is a realistic expectation for this offense that has been streaky and on a roller coaster ride?
I think you're going to continue to see those inconsistencies. They just have a number of players who get very hot for prolonged stretches and they get very cold. Like, that is the DNA of that team offensively. And, you know, are they ever going to be a team that really plays small ball? And I don't necessarily mean by bunting. I mean, you know, having a 2-strike approach and hitting the ball the other way and moving a runner. And is that really where they you know, are they good at that? No, they, over a prolonged amount of time, have shown you that that's really not their makeup offensively, that they're going to be aggressive. They're going to look to hit the ball into the gaps, hit the ball over the fence. And for the most part, I think when you step back, though, and you look at it over the course of 110 plus games, you say, like, this offense has been pretty productive. I mean, statistically, it bears out, even with runners in scoring position, for all the troubles that they've had, comparative to the rest of the league. Like, they're actually pretty good. And I think on an individual basis, as we talk right now, and the conversations change and they can change quickly, but I think if you look at their lineup right now, you feel pretty good about the direction Bryce Harper's going in. I think you feel fine with where Alec Boehm's at. I think you feel pretty good about where Nick Castellanos been at. He's been very consistent for them now for really basically about 2.5 months. There's a lot of good things happening, but they got to get Trey Turner going. You have to hope that, as we just talked about, JT Realmuto makes some progress. And then the one that I just keep coming back to again and again and again is at second base with Bryson Stott. And I do think that we are approaching a situation where you might see more of a pure platoon with Bryson Stott and Edmundo Sosa. The numbers are the numbers, and at some point those numbers get hard to ignore, even when you like a guy, you appreciate what he's doing defensively, you think he's a young up-and-coming player. I would just say that progress is not always linear for young players. Look at Corbin Carroll. Look at what's going on with him right now. I mean, he's struggled immensely this season. So guys don't always just progress in linear fashion, but Bryson Stott's reached a point right now where they have to think long and hard about how they're going to utilize him. And he has not gotten it done. He has been probably, in my opinion, the biggest disappointment this year.
Bob, kind of building off what you just said about Stott and going to Edmundo Sosa, if Stott doesn't pick it up when you head into September, right? I mean, he hasn't been great all year. Is it something where you might just have to take him out of the lineup completely and utilize Edmundo as a starter at second base heading into the postseason?
I think that the rest of the regular season will sort of determine that, but I certainly do think that we are at a spot where you have to play Edmundo Sosa against left-handed pitching. I mean, he's hitting .291 with an .881 OPS against lefties right now. And Bryson Stott comparatively has a 625 OPS, and he's hitting .222 against lefties. I mean, you run the risk with Edmundo Sosa if you play him every single day. He is the classic case of overexposure, and we've seen this when he's gotten starts for an extended stretch of time. He starts to expand the strike zone. Pitchers really start to kind of wear on him a little bit. So I think you have to pick your spots with him. So even if Bryson Stott can't get it going, I still think you're looking at more of a pure platoon at this point.
Bob, when you think about also, I mean, the problem I have with Stott is that he was a guy that we all thought was supposed to take a step forward this year, right? We saw Bohm take the step forward. He's a young guy. Marsh has at least come around offensively this year. He kind of found his way back. Apparently going to Stern Harbor was the elixir for him. I mean, I'm not saying Bryce Stott needs to go on a vacation necessarily, but there's gotta be some reason why this guy he was like your 5-hole hitter last year in the playoffs, and now you don't even have any confidence in him when he's in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, look, his the thing that jumps out at you is just the weak contact. The bat he's never been a guy with elite bat speed, but I mean, you just look at the bat through the zone and there's so much weak to moderately hit hard baseballs that go to left field. They don't carry. He can't beat outfielders on a consistent basis. Every now and then he turns on one, but I mean, it just doesn't happen consistently enough. And the one thing that you liked about Bryson Stott, even when he was struggling, he started to turn the corner in the second half of 2022, and you said, okay, I really like his feel for hitting. And the plate discipline wasn't always there. He didn't walk a ton early in his career, and he has gotten better there. But that hit tool seems to have regressed significantly this season. And you're right. I mean, it's a guy that you expected more out of. And I think if you're him at this point, you realize that there's not one swing or one game that is going to undo the damage of this season from a statistical standpoint. It's very unlikely that Bryson Stott finishes hitting .265 or better. It's very unlikely that Bryson Stott finishes with a 730 OPS or higher. Unlikely to happen. So what he's got to do is just try to get things right, have a big postseason, and go into the offseason and say, look, the season as a whole didn't go the way I wanted it to, but I was still able to contribute in key moments and build off of that going into the winter. But, the way that the Phillies have deployed him and used him here over the last month or two, I think it speaks volumes about where they're at with him right now. And I don't think that there's a ton of confidence, at least in the short term.
Speaking of that, a ton of confidence, we started this conversation talking about JT Realmuto. How about the guys throwing to him, Bob? Ranger Suarez basically is out indefinitely. I mean, no one's really expecting him back, and at least this month, or maybe not till the end of the month, I should say. But in your mind, is this a situation where they should just tell Ranger, just take the month off? We're not even going to try to bring you back because we know that we need you for the postseason more than August and early September.
Yeah, so he threw 125 regular season innings a season ago.
Yep.
When he went on the IL, he was at 119 and a third. I think that you have to be concerned when anytime someone says, hey, look, he might be back as soon as he's eligible off the IL, and then he's not. And then it gets pushed into the following homestand. And now he's probably not going to be back for the Marlins or the Nationals. It's going to be a little bit longer. And the Phillies do a good job of trying to message this and not create panic. And I don't think that there's reason to be overly concerned about what his long-term prognosis is going to be. But I do think it creates a little bit of pause and a little bit of concern when the timetable keeps getting pushed back and pushed back. That all being said, the silver lining in this is that you saw a guy that was fatigued. You saw a guy that was clearly bothered, probably in part by injury and in part by fatigue. And if you don't see him again until September 1 and he can make 4 or 5 starts down the stretch, that may be a blessing in disguise. It might not be good for questions about his durability and what type of contract he'll ultimately command. And is he a number 2 or a number 3 or all those conversations aside, just for the Phillies in October, it may be for the best that he's missed a number of starts here. I mean, we'll see.
I mean, I'm not saying it's an apples-to-apples comparison, but Tyler Glasnow has pitched the most innings of his career this year for the Dodgers. I think his career high was 121, now he's at 127. And he had to miss time already this year due to an injury. Is Ranger Suarez maybe just a similar situation where it's like, hey, he can only hit a certain number of innings right now, no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, maybe his career high came in 22. He threw 155 and a third. So we're in a situation, and obviously he pitched quite a bit that postseason as well. So can he get up there? Yeah, he can, but is he ever going to be a guy that you just pencil in for 180 plus year after year? It does not seem so.
No.
I think that's a question for the Phillies to answer. What does that mean for him and how they view him as part of the long-term plan? Do they view him as part of the long-term plan? They can answer that question moving forward. Certainly, I think that he's lost a little bit of money on his future contract here over what's happened, not just on field performance and some of the regression, but now the injury concerns. That stuff all comes into play, but for 24 and what does it mean in a game 3 or a game 4 scenario in a DS or a CS? I tend to lean positive on this and say so long as you see him get back, have some velocity, have command going into October, it probably, I don't want to say it probably will be a net positive, but it might be.
Bob, I want to talk about Orion Kerkering a little bit here. He's struggled mightily over the past month or so. An ERA over 4 in July. It's over 6 right now. For him, it just seems like he's utilizing that sweeper too much. He gets too sweeper happy and doesn't command that fastball enough. What's the outlook for Kerkering right now with where he's at?
I think it's sort of where you saw him last night, where it's like, hey, we've got a 3-run lead. It's the 6th inning. This is where we're going to go to you. He was thrust into a tough spot last year. They had that hole that they needed to fill, and he was so good coming up and showed promise when he came up at the end of September that it was like, let's just trial by fire. Let's just throw him into the mix and see what happens. And I think it's fair to say that he wasn't entirely ready for the moment last October. You reset this year, he's kind of got his feet under him. He's got some momentum, and the results were encouraging. I think what you're running into a little bit with him is sort of hitting that wall. I mean, he's a rookie. He's a guy that's really going through the grind of a major league season, and just the mental part of it as well, where you have to prepare for major league opponents, appearance after appearance after appearance, and oftentimes in very key spots. And you just wonder if the grind of the season has caught up with him a little bit. Now, the question is he going to be able to navigate that? Can he get over it? I agree with you. If you asked me what's up with Kerkering, I would have started by saying he falls in love with the sweeper, and he's got to have a little bit more confidence in the fastball because he has shown the ability at times to spot the fastball. And even if the velocity's down a tick, which it is, you remember him last year, you see 98, 99 on the gun, and you're like, wow. And this year you're seeing a lot, especially recently, a lot of 96. And so he has lost a tick on that. And I think that kind of plays into what I was just talking about with the fatigue. But there's just got to be more confidence in it. I have to be able to go to this pitch. I have to be able to trust it. And if he can do that, I still think do I trust him to be getting key outs in the 8th and 9th inning in October? Probably not. But as a guy that you can bring in the 6th inning, one thing I'll say to his credit, last night could have gone totally off the rails. He rebounded and got out of that inning and kept them with the lead. Now, I don't want to make the bar that low, but I mean, that thing could have totally spiraled out of control, and it didn't.
Bob, another move that was made today that we didn't mention yet because we're talking about the pitching staff. The Kobe Allard era is done for now. And a guy that, and I can't believe he was actually called up, not because I don't think he's a bad player, but because, social media, Bob. People say I want fill in the blank guy on social media, and someone like me just rolls my eyes. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude, But no, literally Max Lazar is coming up for Kobe Allard. This is a guy that apparently at least some fans were wanting to be called up here. He has a 1.79 ERA between AAA and AA this year. So, welcome to the Lazar era.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the deal. I think you kind of look at it and say it's unlikely with Taijuan Walker likely to return next week. The Colby Allard era has kind of probably run its course. And credit to him. He did a really nice job both last night and in Seattle. He gave the Phillies an opportunity to win 2 games. And, that's all you can really ask for. That said, you want to add another arm to your bullpen mix. So this is probably a short term, a temporary type of thing where until Taijuan Walker's activated and he starts likely next week, probably against the Marlins. This is just a situation where you bring up another arm, and he's done a nice job. I mean, I think he's thrown about 30 innings total, in AAA. I'm just looking at it here on the fly. 35 strikeouts, 9 walks in AAA with Lehigh. So he's done a nice job. And, maybe if you get a situation where you're up a few runs or down a few runs in one of these games this weekend, you see him. But I don't think it's really much more than that.
Bob, this is the final night of the road trip where it's a game starting after 9:30 p.m. All right, so it's finally over with these late starts.
That's all Nick cares about.
That's all I care about.
He wants to go to bed early.
I'm ready to go to bed. So I want to ask you, ending this road trip, going over 500. How important is that going into the home series against the Miami Marlins, the Washington Nationals, and ending this road trip on a positive note?
There's been a lot of anxiety about the Phillies and the way it's looked for the last 3 weeks, and rightfully so. There are questions here, and I think that there's things that you can be concerned about. But that being said, if you end this road trip, if you just look at the totality of the road trip and say, like, okay, they were what I would call a fluky performance from Jeff Hoffman on Saturday night against the Mariners away from winning that series. To come back, be down 4-1 in the rubber match of that game against the Dodgers and show some grit and come back and win that series, take 5 of 6 against LA. That's pretty impressive. You go out to Arizona, and last night, if you looked at it at the start of the series, like which game do you feel the worst about? It would probably be last night. They take care of business. They come back. If you take care of business here this weekend, you win 2 out of 3, or you take all 4 from Arizona. You look at the standings, how they're currently playing in the moment. I don't know that it totally wipes away the previous 3.5 weeks, but it undoes a lot of that damage. And you have what you have in front of you at home for the next week. You have a chance to really just put the division away and be done with this. And I kind of suspect that they will.
If they win tonight, it's going to be interesting. But you could argue, Bob, they have a chance to win more than just Friday night. They could win multiple games over the weekend, because of the fact that it's not like Nelson's a great starter tonight, and they still haven't announced anybody for Sunday as Arizona. I mean, it's after 5 o'clock Eastern on Friday, and Arizona's like, yeah, we don't have a starter yet for Sunday. I mean, in theory, you could walk out of here with more than just 2 wins in Arizona, and I can only imagine how that could boost guys' confidence.
Yeah, when you go through a stretch like they did, they need to get wins back. So under normal circumstances, you say, hey, we go out to Arizona and we split. That's good enough. But when you get swept by the Yankees, you let the games go against Minnesota and Pittsburgh and Seattle. Like, you got to go get 1 or 2 of them back to sort of offset that damage a little bit. And they should. They will have the pitching advantage in every single game for the remainder of the series. And you can say, wait a minute, what about tomorrow night? Zach Gallen. Like, I'll take Aaron Nola over Zach Gallen. Sorry, South Jersey folk. I know that everyone gets real excited about Bishop Eustace's own, but I'll take Aaron Nola.
I think right now people are more excited about Tyler Phillips than they are Gallen.
Yeah,
really, so.
Yeah.
But I did want to, because with that point being said, because you mentioned about getting games back before we let you go, Bob. I had somebody texting me earlier personally on my phone asking me, which team are you more concerned about who's behind you in the standings? So I'll ask it to you, Bob. Is it the Mets or is it the Braves? Which of the 2 teams are you more concerned about moving forward?
In terms of like being cut down in the division?
Yeah.
And one of these teams? Neither. I mean, you're
just dismissing them both.
I'll say this about the Mets. I mean, their season looked over at the end of May. And to their credit, they've put together 2 pretty good months here to put themselves in the mix. The question I have, Atlanta will get a little bit healthier incrementally, but you just look at Atlanta's starting pitching. It's a mess right now. I mean, I just don't know if the pitching is good enough. Like, I give them a lot of credit for their success, especially in the regular season over the last number of years. And I think that they're always a threat to a degree when you have guys that have played in a lot of big games and have won a lot of games. But I just don't know, if you're Atlanta, how do you sustain winning streaks when that's your starting pitching situation. And it's not like the Mets have lights out starting pitching either, but there's at least some momentum there. There's at least some cohesiveness. And the feeling with the Mets, I think, is a little bit different than it is with the Braves. I think Atlanta's got to have a little bit of sense of like, this just is not our year. So if you forced me right now, like, I actually want to say the Mets, but I still would say the Braves, just based on the pedigree aspect of it.
He's Bob Wankel. Check out all of his coverage of the Phillies at Crossing Broad. Check out the Crossed Up podcast and go to redoctoberphilly.com for all the latest Phillies news through the newsletter. Bob, appreciate you jumping on today. And as Nick said, yes, tonight is the final late night of Phillies baseball, at least until the postseason. Maybe they'll play.
Yeah, make sure you get some sleep this weekend. All right.
Oh, I will, Bob. I will. Don't worry.
Good. All right. Talk soon, guys. Thanks.
Take care, Bob. Bob Wankel joining us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig. Back to the text board. Coming up next, 609-403-0973 in your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Nick Earnshaw along with Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN. Filling for Mike Gill on a happy hour Friday as promised. Back to the text board. We'll get some thoughts in here. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. We got some backlog of text to get here, Nick Earnshaw.
We do.
So I don't want to ignore the people. Josh from Cape May chimed in earlier. He says, I got some Vale Brewing Strangest Eternity. It's a super juicy New England IPA. It's a 4.21 scale on Untapped.
That sounds pretty good. That's a cool name. I love the names of all these IPAs. Like, they're just so creative. They're fantastic.
Have you seen the can?
I have not seen the can.
He sent the can to the text board, and it's a pretty cool looking can, I gotta admit.
How about that? Oh, yeah, he did send the can. Look at that. That's pretty cool.
It's a pretty cool can.
Yeah, look at that.
Good job
Nice.
by Josh from Cape May.
Yeah, good job by you.
I expect nothing less from Josh from Cape May, by the way.
Yeah, it's got your name, too. I mean, so.
Well,
a little
there's
biased
that,
there.
too.
A little biased there.
Little biased. You know, you're biased to Hamilton. I'm biased to a guy named Josh.
There you go.
You know?
There you go. It is what it is.
People were also chiming in on our list of the 10. So, again, I want to delineate the list, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of the list is the fact that it's athletes who were born to play in Philadelphia.
Who embodied the city.
Like they represent what the city loves, what it appreciates, what it's passionate about. So it's not supposed to be a list of just the best players.
Yes.
Okay? So an anonymous texter sent in their list.
Okay.
So we're just calling Mr. 856.
856.
All right.
It's an area code.
I know what it is, Nick Earnshaw.
just for let everyone know. It's an area code.
God. So the list the person gives is Iverson Dawkins, Jason Kelsey, Wayne Simmons, Ron Hextall, Bryce Harper, Jeremiah Trotter, Chase Utley, Nick Foles, Brandon Graham.
Wayne Simmons? Hextall? I don't know about top 10.
I feel like Simmons could be an honorable mention.
He's an honorable mention, but I don't know about top 10.
I mean, first of all, there's no Bednarik on this list.
You gotta have Bednarik.
That's a problem.
Billy Schweim texted me 10 times saying Bednarik.
Well, Billy Schweim must not be listening because you and I both had Bednarik
We did.
on our list.
We did.
In the 3 o'clock hour. So Billy Schweim in the locker room from 10 a.m. to noon here on 97.3 ESPN. You know, Billy's great at talking, but he's not great at listening.
Yeah. Bednarik should be on everybody's list, no doubt.
The other problem I have with this list is if you're going to put Brandon Graham on there, you know what I mean? Like, are you really putting Brandon Graham ahead of, I mean, there's really only one Phillies player, two Phillies players on this guy's list. Like, I don't know. It's hard though. It's hard to balance between the teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because if you're trying to get everybody in there, you're going to have more, like maybe more baseball, maybe more football, maybe more hockey, basketball, whatever it may be. It's a tough balance because that's why it's so hard to make a top 10 list. And I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, who am I going to leave off of the top 10? I'm going to have more Eagles players than Phillies or more Phillies than Eagles.
Mr. 856 just tweeted back in, texted into 609-403-0973. He heard us talking about him, and he said, I'm too young to watch some of these guys, so I went strictly off of who I watched.
That's fair. I'm young too.
But see, that's a fair context.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that he didn't just come back and say, go bleep yourself. He said, listen, I made the list based off of who I've seen in my lifetime.
Yes.
I like the list better now.
Yes, it's a good list. If you're just going off who you watched
during your lifetime,
yes,
that's a fair list.
I could have done that. I just chose not to. I wanted to incorporate the historical perspective in there too.
Now, I will say another anonymous texter, I'm going to call them Mr. 302. Texting in at 609-403-0973. He's with you, Nick Earnshaw.
Okay.
He says, I used to love these West Coast Phillies series, staying up late when I was younger. Now being a grown-up, when I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning, it crushes your hope to stay up till midnight.
I can attest to this. I'm learning that now. I'm learning that now because I get up early as heck during the work week at like 6 a.m. So this is why the late night games are just killing me anymore. As someone in their mid-20s, not early 20s anymore. Well, mid-20s now, Josh.
Yeah. It's less about your age than it's about the time you wake up for work. I think that's the bigger key.
Yeah, and I'm an early riser.
You know, it's funny because I've had these conversations with a bunch of people lately because of the fact that I'm pretty much the only person in like anyone I talk to who has the kind of work schedule I do.
Right.
You know, my work schedule is later than most people because the Sports Bash is 2 to 6. Then my show comes on at 6 o'clock. And then I got to get work done when I'm done with the on-air shows that I couldn't get done earlier. So while most people are working a 8 to 4, 7 to 3, or 7 to 4, or whatever it is, when people are a lot of people getting done work, I'm still working. You know what I mean?
Still working.
You know, so it's like a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, I'm 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m." because they have like a lunch break or something, and it's like, yeah, I still got another 2 hours when you're done at work.
So you don't mind the late starts.
So for me, the late start doesn't matter because I'm already either working or I'm already awake. You know what I mean?
You're there.
I'm going to the gym at night, for goodness sake.
Yeah, you do.
So to me, I understand where people come from because not everyone's on the same schedule as me. So I get the frustration. But not much you can do about it. I mean, they're in California. I mean, it
is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. No, I'm sick and tired of the late starts. Thank goodness this West Coast road trip's wrapping up. The weekend, I don't mind the late starts.
Really quick, which is worse? The Phillies late starts or the Sixers late starts?
Phillies. I would say Phillies. There's more games.
So I disagree. It's Sixers.
Why would it be Sixers?
Because I feel like the Sixer games like baseball, it's first pitch, right? Mm-hmm. First pitch at 9:40, right? Let's say.
Or 10:10.
You know, like basketball, the game is supposed to start at 10. But they never start
on time. Yeah,
They're never on time. And if it's a national game, they got like a 20-minute preamble leading in. So by the time they had the tip-off, it's like 15 minutes later. So I feel like the basketball games end later than the baseball games.
That's a fair point. But with baseball, the problem is there's more games. So it's every single night of the week, it seems like. So this week it was, right? They didn't have any days off. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it's all 10, 9:40. You're playing the Dodgers.
Are you trying to tell me, Nick Earnshaw, the reason why I'm so tired is because these Phillies games have been on late and that my sleep is being deprived because I'm forcing myself to stay up to watch these games?
Yes, that is why. The good thing is, though, because they replay the games. So when I'm up, I get to catch the endings of the games if I missed it the night before. So that's fine. I'm cool with that. But yeah, I like the 6:40 starts. I love how they start. I feel like I have my whole night when they start at 6:40. It's fantastic. So I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but those 6:40 starts when they change it from 7:05, they have been fantastic. I love the 6:40. Love it, Josh.
We got another list coming in here at 609-403-0973. Biz from Absecon submitted his list.
Okay.
Bednarik, Jaworski, Cunningham, Brookshire. Now we're getting to the really old guys.
Wow, yeah.
Dawkins, Foles, Bobby Clark, Bernie Perron, and Tommy McDonald. I mean, this is literally the before 1995
Yes.
list.
Because there's a problem not having Jason Kelce on it.
It's not just Kelce, though. It's
very
Chase Utley.
It's very
for
Eagles
example.
heavy. It's very Eagles heavy.
It's no Chase Utley. There's no Iverson. There's no modern Eagles. I mean, the only one is Dawkins, really.
There's not
Foles.
one.
Foles is on there.
There's
okay.
not one Philadelphia Philly on there.
Yeah, there's no Phillies on there. That's disappointing.
That's concerning. See, this is the problem. You can overdo it with one team. Like if you go that route.
Right. Well, like, for example, Billy Schweim, for those who don't know, he's blowing up our phones because for those who don't know, Billy Schweim doesn't think Nick Earnshaw and I work. So he just blows up our phones constantly. You know, he gets mad if we don't acknowledge him the very second he texts us. He's like that needy girlfriend that won't let you go and like have a job. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, Biz's list reminds me of Billy's list.
Yes.
Because Billy's list goes Larry Boa, Dave Schultz, Jeremiah Trotter, Brian Dawkins, Allen Iverson, Rick Tocchet, Chase Utley, Jason Kelce, Bobby Clark, Chuck Bednarik. And I gotta tell you, did I not tell you it would be Flyers heavy?
Yes, you did. I agreed with you.
So Billy's Flyers heavy, Biz is Eagles heavy.
Yes. And at least Billy's got Jason Kelce on the list. I mean, I'll give him that. I'll give him Jason Kelce. Biz don't have Jason Kelce. You don't have Jason Kelce on your list unless you modify it.
I told you I'm putting him on my list. I'm putting on the list.
You're going to modify it? Good.
I'm going to modify it. But
see, at least you admit your mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it was an oversight.
It was by you. Bad job. But you corrected it, so I'll give you credit.
But, like, for example, if I'm Billy, Rick Tocchet can't be on the list.
Yeah, and he has him, and he numbered them, too.
I mean, you're putting Tocchet ahead of
no.
Bryce Harper.
Dawkins. Yeah, he doesn't have Harper on the list.
I don't see Foles on this list.
No, he doesn't have Foles. Well, he also said Foles doesn't deserve have his number retired either.
He did say that. You guys can argue about that tomorrow. I have my fill of that.
You're going to step out. You're going to step out on the conversation.
I mean, to me, you got to take Tocchet out and you got to put Harper in.
Yeah, you got to put Bryce has to be on there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He came here. He embraced it he embraced the city as soon as he came here. He's been fantastic. He's got an all-time moment in Phillies history with the bedlam at the bank. Like,
see, the problem for me with this list also is that he's got Tocchet and Schultz in there, and we know Billy's a hockey guy.
He's a hockey guy,
so he's going to go psychotically heavy on the hockey.
Hockey heavy. Yeah, I don't even know what was. I think I had a good mix. I
think you and I both had a pretty good mix.
Let me count. Let's see if I can count.
Yeah, I'm counting mine
at the same time. But yeah, I think majority it's going to be Phillies Eagles heavy for most people. I feel like. And then you have the people like Billy who are going to go hockey heavy if you're a hockey head, and basketball heavy if you're a big basketball fan. But I think majority of the fan base will be Phillies Eagles.
I went pretty heavy on the Eagles. I got 5 Eagles here.
I'm counting 1, 2. Can I count when I'm on the air? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah,
Should
sure,
I do
why
that?
not?
Is that good radio if I count on the air?
I don't even care at this point.
I don't even know.
I'm so sleep deprived, man.
We got about 16 minutes left in the show.
Shut up. I got more work to do after the show.
You do. I'm going to get my happy hour Friday started after the show.
Yeah, you are. I mean, I'm looking at my list right now because I got Bednarik, Dawkins, Foles, Trotter, Kelce. That's 5 Eagles.
Yeah, I got 5 Eagles as well.
So then I'm looking at the rest of the list. I have 1 Sixer, Iverson. So maybe I went too late on the Sixers. Maybe that's the problem.
I only went 1 Sixer too.
I have I have 2 Phillies, Harper and Kruk.
Yeah, I have 3 Phillies.
And I have 2 Flyers.
I have 3 Phillies, 1 Sixer, 1 Flyer, 5 Eagles. So I went Eagles heavy. I went football heavy.
So did I, actually. So
I didn't even realize it. But, I mean, all these people deserve to be on the list and in consideration. There's others that I left off that I hated leaving off. But, I don't know. I felt like this was the best 10 that I had.
Andy at EHT, he gives us his list. This is a pretty heavy bias. You'll notice once I read the list. You ready?
Yes.
But you got to listen to the full list.
Got it.
Iverson, Utley, Harper, Kruk, Dykstra, Foles, Kelsey, Dawkins, Schilling, Lindros.
That's actually not a bad balance.
It's not a bad list, but did you notice what the consistency is?
It was mainly Phillies.
It was a lot of 90s.
Yeah, a lot of 90s too.
Lindros, Dykstra, Kruk, Dawkins was drafted in the 90s, Schilling was in the 90s.
Yeah, I was late
a lot
in the 90s,
of 90s.
Early 2000s. Yeah.
I think Andy might be 40 years old. I'm just saying.
We might have guessed your age.
Andy at DHT might be 42 years old. I'm just saying.
You wouldn't be able to guess my age for my list. Because I had a mix.
No,
I had a mix in there.
You did a good job at taking the ageism out of it.
Yeah, because I wanted to try. I mean, you have to put them into consideration. The guys, Ashburn, the Bednareks of the world, Bobby Clarks. Like, you gotta consider them too.
He's Nick Earnshaw. I'm Josh Hennig. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, being brought to you this hour by Key Acura of Atlantic City for a great car buying experience. Go see Rocco and the team at Key Acura of Atlantic City, the small but friendly dealer located on Tilton Road in Egg Harbor Township. Check out their full inventory at keyacura.com. We'll wrap up the Friday edition of the Sports Bash coming up next on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
It's this.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Wrapping up the Sports Bash, don't forget tonight on 97.3 ESPN, it's Eagles, Baltimore. Nick Earnshaw, the tarp is off the field.
It's off. We got football to play tonight.
We got football tonight. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. And then the Hall of Famer. You get to call him that now, you know.
Yeah,
the Hall of Famer, Mel Reese, along with Eagles legend Mike Quick, calling all the action here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. So no game night tonight. We got Eagles coming on tonight on 97.3 ESPN. You know, there's no, Nick Earnshaw, there's no game night tonight. There's no game night last night. There's no game night Monday. Billy Schwab with the lifeguard races.
Yep.
I mean, game night's just getting kicked to the curb, man.
It is getting kicked to the curb. It is, unfortunately. But hey, you had 4 hours. We had 4 hours today. So you made up for it.
I think I had plenty of airtime.
Yeah, you made up for it.
I did.
Which is good. And then we got Eagles football. You got the races on Monday. There's a lot going on here in the month of August.
There's a lot going on here on 97.3 ESPN. Before we get out of here, I did want to hit on something that we didn't get a chance to talk about too much. We touched on with Mike McGarry earlier, Nick. I know that you and I were talking about Team USA coming back from 17 down to beat Serbia. And I got 2 takeaways from the game. First of all, and I asked Mike McGarry this question, I'll ask you the same question, Nick Earnshaw. Are you encouraged by Joel Embiid's rising to the occasion?
I am. And, Mike earlier kind of acknowledged some of the limitations he's had. He still turned the ball over a couple times late, like some of the things we weren't used to seeing. But him being in that situation around these great players to see how composed they were. Steph Curry was big coming down the stretch, right? it's good to see that. It's good for Embiid to see that from these all-time greats and legends and be around that. So in those situations, he now kind of has the experience. Okay, I could take from what I learned at the Olympics and kind of apply it to when I'm with the Sixers. So I'm glad that he's been around this team. He's around these great players, and in a situation like that yesterday where it could have been a massive upset.
The other thing I have to go away from the game is, Team USA has covered only one game this entire Olympics.
Have they really?
The Puerto Rico game.
Wow.
So tomorrow, the game is 13.5.
I don't think they cover.
I don't think they cover, man. I think the smart play is to get France on that number now.
Yeah. USA will win, but I wonder how many points Embiid will score on Wembanyama again. I was at that game when he scored 70.
Did you?
Yeah. That was great. It was great. That was fantastic.
Do you, what's the over-under on DX chops by Embiid tomorrow?
Oh, it's going to be like 30. It's got to be, right? I always set the line at 30.
How do you think Embiid is at cursing in French? Think he's pretty good at it?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's probably decent enough to where he knows what he's saying and and everyone else knows what he's saying.
I would just love to know if Joel Embiid just goes out there and starts trash talking everybody in French. Nobody knows what he's saying except for the French team.
Well, he did say in a press conference he's going to tell him to suck it, so.
DX chop, man. That's what I said.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Phillies tonight. We're going to get one more look. Now, the Phillies lineup came out yesterday around 6:03, so I just missed it on the radio. Let's see.
I didn't see
Phillies
it yet.
lineup.
I didn't see it yet. Yeah.
Darn.
It's going to be a couple minutes after we leave, of course.
Well, like you said, this is the last late night.
Thank goodness. I'm sick and tired of it.
Nick, you will be in tomorrow with Billy Schwein,
I
correct?
will. It'll be fun. 10 to 12. Can't wait.
All right. You and Billy can argue by Nick Foles tomorrow.
It's going to be something.
Nick and I will be back on Monday here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, recapping the Phillies weekend and the Eagles game tonight. Don't forget you listen to the Eagles right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig at Josh Hennig on the Twitter X platform. Have a great night, everybody.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.